Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto has an Ash Bloodline part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Naruto hadn't had what you would call an easy life. He was an orphan child who had no memory of his family. All he could remember was getting dropped off at the orphanage, and that was it. It was from this point on that Naruto had to make a living for himself. He knew that the orphanage wasn't going to be able to take care of him when he hit the age of 13. He was going to have to make it on his own, and that was what exactly he intended on doing. He might not have been a star-studded genius like Neji Hyuga, who took out the title of Rookie of the Year with what seemed like little to no effort whatsoever. What Naruto had instead was this insurmountable work ethic. He didn't believe that there was anyone close to having the same work ethic that he had, at least out of his peers. He wanted to become rich and famous. When you came from a broken family where you had no parents, no money, and most importantly, no nothing, you wanted to make something of yourself rather than just sit and wallow in pity. Naruto learned from a very early age that there was nothing in life that was free. Everything that you got in life was because you worked for it. Nothing was given to you for free, and everything had a price. Now, to become mega rich, which was Naruto's main goal in life, he had to have training. Because he was an orphan, Naruto wasn't able to afford the education that a civilian school could offer. He instead had to rely on the shinobi education, which just so happened to be free of charge for anyone who was willing to sign their life away. The fact that it was free of charge was the deciding factor in whether or not Naruto would become a shinobi or civilian. When it became apparent to Naruto that he was going to become a shinobi, he knew that he was going to have to be very good. Very few shinobi made the sort of money that he wanted to make. You only made that type of money as a shinobi if you were constantly taking the highest ranked missions on a consistent basis. To get to that level, you had to be damn strong, and that was what Naruto wanted. It also helped that his second goal of becoming famous and making something of himself could be achieved by the same way. It made the 6-year-old kid who was starting at the academy take his studies seriously. He wanted to give himself the best possible chance at becoming the best he could be. He didn't have any family that could help him out, unfortunately, so Naruto had to resort to studying as much as he could from the small library in the academy. He wasn't even allowed to go and study in the main shinobi library because he wasn't a genin. This meant there was only so much that Naruto could actually learn about being a shinobi. Naruto could only learn what was on offer at the academy, but had made the most out of his situation. Since he was an orphan, there was only so much food on offer at the orphanage, so he was rather limited in the amount of muscle he was able to put on. It didn't matter how much you worked out, if you didn't fuel your body properly, then you were going to never grow. That was really the only area where Naruto couldn't make legitimate gains in his abilities as a shinobi. Every other facet of his abilities were fully in his control. Naruto's chakra control was through the roof, as he had the bright idea one day to attempt to do the leaf balancing exercise with something slightly heavier. It was right then and there that Naruto noticed that it was a fair bit harder. At this point, Naruto sued a whole host of various things to increase both his chakra capacity and his chakra control. Whilst he couldn't increase his muscle mass, thereby increasing his speed and power in his strikes, Naruto's taijutsu technique was absolutely flawless. When you didn't have much money to spend at all, you kind of had to make do with what you had. Naruto knew all 3 of the academy jutsus, had studied for all the written tests, and had shown above competency when it came to the throwing portion of the test. All of this pointed to Naruto easily passing the test to become a genin. So why was it that Naruto was so bitter about the shinobi system? All that could be answered in one name: Kakashi Hatake. Sure, Naruto might have been the second best in his class, losing to the title of Rookie of the Year only to Neji Hyuga, but that meant nothing to the elite jonin. Just because Naruto was good didn't mean Team 5 deserved to pass the test by virtue of merit. Naruto himself did all the right things apart from managing to get one of the bells. He was willing to work with his teammates even if they weren't at the same level as him. It was too bad for him that his other 2 teammates weren't. It was these actions that, unfortunately for the genin hopeful to fail his test through no fault of his own. This action forced Naruto into having to join the reserves list and wait for any potential place to become available. Because he had graduated the academy, though, Naruto was kicked out of the orphanage as he was deemed capable enough of providing for himself. It was a major kick in the teeth for the genin. If Naruto didn't realize what it was like to be forced to fend for yourself, well, he definitely learned quickly, with no place to call home and, most importantly, no roof over his head at night. The survival skills taught at the academy became vitally important to Naruto, as he had to set up a home as best as he could in such a short space of time. Naruto immediately went to the mission hall to get a D-rank mission. With there being a lot less people, it meant there was tons more work for Naruto. He didn't mind this though, as it meant he got all of the profits. Naruto only got enough time to do 3 missions a day, but when each D-ranked mission paid $100 because he was the only person doing it, it quickly added up. Naruto only had to wait 2 weeks before he had saved up enough to get the shittiest of shitty apartments. He didn't care one bit though, as it meant that he got to have a warm shower. Having a river bath in the start of spring was definitely an intense way to wake up each morning. It was hard adjusting to life living by yourself, but at least for Naruto he now had a roof over his head. Those 2 weeks at the end of winter having showers with only fresh water coming from a mountain were brutally cold. For at least a month, Naruto didn't have any time to train his skills as a shinobi. All he was doing was completing D-ranked missions. With the fact that he was a genin without a team, he knew that he was not going to be going on any C-ranked missions anytime soon. So without the pressing need to train right away, Naruto focused his attention on building up a safety net of money that he could use in desperate times. Once he had built up to the point where he had 2 months' rent saved up in his bank account, Naruto finally relaxed instead of doing 3 missions a day and moved to a 2-a-day schedule. This time frame allowed Naruto to go to the proper shinobi library, and this was really where he managed to shine in terms of growing in skill. Naruto finally had a much larger array of material that he could learn from. He wasn't just limited to the bare-bone basics. Naruto immediately went to the place where he was interested the most. There was really no surprise whatsoever when he arrived at the elemental ninjutsu section, considering the fact that he was a boy verging on his teenage years. After reading as much as he could on the subject, Naruto went to a shinobi supply shop and made a small investment that would be the best investment he ever made. Naruto bought a piece of chakra paper and watched how it lit up in flames right in front of his very eyes. The knowledge that he had an affinity for the fire element made Naruto giddy. Despite the fact that he was very much focused on his studies as a shinobi, he was still a kid, and being able to breathe fire was damn cool. Sure, he knew that he could make wind work, but it just wasn't as cool as fire. What Naruto didn't realize at the time was the fact that he had a very strong fire element. The boy spent time attempting to learn the most basic of basic fire ninjutsus from scrolls that he had found in the library. Being able to make a fire would have been very helpful when he was doing glorified camping. It took a month of training, but thankfully Naruto managed to get it to the point where he had learned a C-rank fire ninjutsu. It was by no means as powerful as it could be, but at least it was an offensive jutsu in his arsenal. There was only so much you could strategize with only having access to the basic 3 academy jutsu. Naruto wasn't satisfied with only having learnt one fire ninjutsu. There was a thirst for knowledge and power in the boy, and Naruto wanted to be as strong as possible. What started as being able to create 3 fireballs and being at his limits through hard work changed to allow Naruto to throw out 7 of the jutsu. Throughout the training, Naruto had managed to yet again fine-tune his chakra controls so he didn't waste chakra when using the Katan, Enden, Fire Release, Flame Bullet. With the increase in money that Naruto had, it meant that he could finally eat more than what was on offer the boy who used to live at the orphanage. It was crucial for a growing boy, let alone a shinobi at that, to eat at a surplus so that he could build up the body required to be a ninja. Naruto, you are required in the Hokage's office, the ANBU officer stated, to which Naruto nodded. He had absolutely no idea what the Hokage wanted that had to do with him, but he wasn't going to question it. When he made his way to the Hokage's office, Naruto slowly stepped into the room, and even he, someone who was only a genin, could tell that there was something wrong. Still, the genin who had just hit the 1-year mark wanted to know what someone like the Hokage wanted with him. He was a peasant in comparison to the village leader, so it only begged the question. Now Naruto, unfortunately, I would like to deliver this news on better terms, but that is not the case, Hiruzen Sarutobi stated as he watched the boy in front of him enter the room. The boy had no idea as to how the Sandaime Hokage knew his name, but he didn't question it. In the back of his mind, Naruto assumed the man had looked at his file. Hiruzen saw the boy didn't make a motion to speak, so he continued on. There has sadly been a fatality on a mission involving a promising genin. That is not something that you have to concern yourself with, but the part that you will be interested in, Naruto-kun, is the fact that there is a spot available to be on a team, the Hokage stated, to which Naruto's eyes widened. He honestly didn't think that he would get a chance like this. He felt bad for whoever it was that passed away, but he was not going to bite the hand that feeds. This was the best chance for him to be able to progress his career as a shinobi. Ever since his 3rd C-rank mission 3 months ago, Naruto had felt as if he was starting to stagnate in progression. It was very rare for Naruto to go on missions that were above D rank. Generally, they only trusted those to teams of genin that had months and months of teamwork practice under their respective belts. Thank you, Hokage-sama. I promise that you won't regret placing me on that team, Naruto said with giddiness and anticipation. He couldn't wait to see what it was like to be on a team. Hiruzen chuckled. I haven't actually offered you the chance to be on Team 10. The war veteran chuckled even harder to himself when he saw the look of fear on the face of the genin in front of him. He normally didn't get the chance to toy with genin, and it was one of his favorite things to do. "Oh, I am sorry, Hokage-sama," Naruto said as he attempted to backpedal and retract his previous statement. "Haha, don't worry, boy. Please don't blame this old man for getting a chuckle. I am going to offer the position in Team 10. Your sensei will be the man sitting behind you." It was at this point that Naruto quickly turned around. It was much to his embarrassment that he didn't even realize that there was someone behind him. He really needed to work on that. It was at this point that the man walked over to Naruto and placed his hand on his shoulder. "Kid, we're going to have a chat," the Jonin said before he and Naruto disappeared by via the Shun Shinjutsu. As Hiruzen watched on, he knew it was petty, but he couldn't help but not be annoyed at the sight of that boy. Sure, he knew that Konohamaru would have a much better chance at being an adjusted Jinchuriki than Naruto since he had a stronger support network, but he didn't like the fact that his grandson was a Jinchuriki. The two shinobi found themselves in a clearing of land that would one day become familiar to Naruto. "My name is Asuma Sarutobi. The first thing I want you to do is to come at me with the intent to kill. I want to see how good you really are," Asuma stated to the son of the fourth Hokage. He had of course read the file of the boy and knew that he was good, but he wanted to see it for himself. This was not the first time that Naruto had heard something this before. The last time he had heard it was when he was in his final genin exam up against Kakashi. He definitely wasn't going to make that mistake again. He was going to show this Jonin just how good he really was. "Alright then, you asked for it," Naruto said with a grin on his face. Immediately the boy rocketed off the ground as fast as he could. It was slightly faster than the average genin. Asuma mused that it was about the same speed as the Kiba kid that Kurenai had. For the purpose of the test, Asuma decided to block the first punch rather than dodge it. What has this kid been eating? For someone so skinny, he sure packs a punch. Asuma definitely made sure to dodge rather than block from this point on. Naruto was shocked that he managed to get a glancing blow on his first hit, but then realized that this was just the Jonin playing with him. "I should have realized. The difference between myself and Asuma is probably the same as Kakashi." Once Asuma stepped up a gear, Naruto realized just how much a gulf in class it was. Naruto attempted to punch the Sarutobi in the face with a jab, and when that was dodged, he followed it up with a sweeping kick at the ankles of his opponent. During his taijutsu training at the academy, Naruto distinctly remembered the rule of never going in the air unless you had to because it left you much more vulnerable when you landed. This was his plan as Naruto realized that he couldn't beat his new sensei in a taijutsu fight. It wasn't even close. Ninjutsu was by far Naruto's better option as this was the area that he was best at. As this was happening, Asuma could have dodged the attack in a multitude of other ways, but he wanted to see if Naruto could spot the opening and take advantage of it. A small grin appeared on the face of the bearded Jonin as he watched Naruto go through some hand seals and breathe out an impressive ball of fire. The impressive part of this was that Naruto used a jutsu which was normally deemed a C-rank ninjutsu. The power and control that it was used with brought that one in particular up to a B rank. Judging by the fact that Naruto wasn't even breathing any faster than normal meant that his chakra reserves were significantly large for his age. Because of the simple fact that he didn't want to die, Asuma used some wind manipulation and a hand seal to push his body out of the way of the fireball. "Katan, Hozenka no Jutsu, Fire Release, Phoenix Sage Fire Technique," Naruto called out, and quickly followed up with another fire ninjutsu. Whilst this one did less damage, there was a greater chance for some damage to be inflicted. Using speed that generally only Jonin had, Asuma dodged the incoming attack. He decided that he had enough of being on the defensive, and wanted to see what Naruto was made of. Asuma pulled a kunai out of its holster and threw it at the blonde-haired boy. As the metal sailed through the air, Asuma charged at Naruto with another kunai. Naruto quickly pulled out one of his own and did his best to prolong the fight. "Shit! He dodged my attacks like they were nothing," Naruto thought to himself as he struggled to think of something that would catch this Jonin off guard. In a split second, Naruto threw the kunai in his hand at Asuma whilst he was at point-blank range. He didn't even bother to look if the kunai did any damage as Naruto was already pulling out another kunai in case his previous attack missed. It did miss, unfortunately. In a burst of speed, Asuma appeared behind Naruto and held a kunai to the back of his throat. "You're good, kid, but this spar is over. Now let's talk," the man gruffly stated, to which Naruto nodded. He tried his best to calm his racing heart. Once the two of them were sitting down, Asuma spoke up. "So as the Hokage stated, one of my students passed away recently on a mission. None of your teammates are over it, and to be honest, I'm not really either. I'm just making the best out of a bad situation. Because of the situation, I think it is only fair that I tell you what happened. Naruto could tell that this was obviously something that was hard for him to talk about since it was still so fresh in his mind. That's so, Naruto knew that he would always be asking this question if he didn't get answers, and definitely the other two genin would not want to talk about it, that's for sure. I originally wanted to take my team on a C-rank mission just to show them the ropes of what it means to be a shinobi. Of course, there was no real danger because I myself can do C-rank missions in my sleep. What happened was that the client had lied about the status of the mission. Instead of it being bandits after him, it happened to be the second strongest 7 swordsmen of the mist. Asuma noticed Naruto's eyes widening at the mentioning the name of that group. Good. I could have fought Zabuza to a standstill, but my genin froze at their first sign of combat against 2 chunin who came after them. The only person who didn't was Shikamaru. It was his first mission, and he did his best to coordinate his 2 teammates, but they had a fucking accomplice who masqueraded as a hunter nin. I saw the hunter nin and originally thought that he was here to help kill Zabuza. Asuma shook his head for a moment before continuing on. I was wrong. The hunter nin quickly turned onto my genin and threw a saban which killed Shikamaru on impact. I immediately called a halt to the fight, and Zabuza and his accomplice left after I said we will take Tazuna back to Konoha's prison. I tried my best to revive the kid but couldn't do it. You don't have to say any more, sensei. Thank you for telling me at this much, Naruto said quietly as he looked to his sensei. I shouldn't have taken the mission. It's all my fault, Asuma said to himself as he looked down at his hands. Naruto was shocked. From the story that he had just heard, his sensei was definitely not the one at fault. None of this is your fault, sensei. It's that dickhead of a client that did this. You said yourself that you could do C-rank missions yourself in your sleep, and you would have completed that mission if it stayed as a C-rank mission cause you're heaps strong. Haha, thanks Naruto. I needed that. Now, changing subjects, I am going to be annihilating you and your 2 teammates from tomorrow in training. For the first time since the death of Shikamaru, Asuma chuckled when he saw a look of fear and trepidation on the face of his newest student. Some quick advice though, with the amount of power you can pack in your taijutsu with such a small frame, you should drink a lot more milk and eat a lot more meat. With the amount of chakra that you have in your body, genjutsu isn't really going to be your strong point, so you need to increase your taijutsu to even you out. Asuma wasn't going to tell the boy just yet that he had chakra reserves on the same level as a special jonin, what with being the son of Minato and Kushina, as well as all of the training that he had done. Naruto immediately nodded and watched as his sensei flickered away with a Shunshin jutsu. He honestly didn't think that today could get any better with how he just found himself a lifeline on his shinobi career. At around the 6-month mark in his career as a genin shinobi, Naruto felt himself stagnating and couldn't think of a way to break the mold. With renewed motivation thanks to getting a sensei, Naruto headed home and fully intended to take up Asuma sensei on his suggestion whilst studying that scroll on elemental manipulation he had borrowed from the library. A nice cool glass of chocolate milk sounded good to Naruto right about now. Where Asuma was walking, it wasn't a place that he normally frequented. It was deep in the underground of Konoha. It had been a long time since he had seen his former sensei. All of the Root ANBU members that he could see didn't even bother to try and stop Asuma. They knew that he was more than welcome down these parts, and they didn't want to annoy Danzo-sama. A lot of people thought that Root was dead. They were fools. Everyone who was in the know knew that the Sandaime actually kept it going, although the less he knew about it the better. Whilst he didn't like the means, the ends that Danzo achieved were more often than not certainly justified. It has been a while, Danzo-sensei, Asuma stated as he took in the appearance of his Jonin team leader back in the day. He wasn't going to say anything, but the old man had definitely seen better days. It has indeed, Asuma-kun. So what is it that I can do for you? You wouldn't be down here unless there was something that you needed. Asuma winced. To most people when Danzo spoke he was completely monotone. Not to his student he wasn't. Asuma could hear annoyance in the voice of his sensei. He knew that the man was justified after all. His father wasn't the only person who he left when he joined the 12 Guardian Ninja. Danzo-sensei, I'm looking for some guidance. I have never lost a student before, Asuma quietly stated as he sat down in the chair opposite the war veteran. A flash of understanding went across the face of the man before he spoke up. Despite the picture he let people paint of him, Danzo wasn't emotionless as certain people like to believe. He did care for people, but he had lost so many of them that he liked to keep himself guarded. Asuma's 2 teammates were a good example. This is about Shikamaru, isn't? Asuma didn't respond. Some of this is your fault. This shocked Asuma. It wasn't particularly something that he wanted to hear, but he supposed that it was something that he needed to hear. He was thankful that his sensei wasn't someone who pulled punches. None of that matters now though, Asuma-kun. 2 of your genin need you more than ever right now, and the 3rd one needs you to set a good example as he doesn't have any role models. Asuma nodded at the words that came from Danzo. Once again, the man was right. He pretty much knew it already but just wanted to hear it from another source. Now, tell me what you really came here for, Asuma-kun. That isn't something that you would come here after all these years to talk to me about, Danzo stated as he wanted to get down to the crux of conversation. I want to complete my training under you, sensei. I want to learn vacuum manipulation. I don't want anything ever coming close to what happened recently, Asuma stated, to which Danzo nodded. Ever since he had heard of the unfortunate death of the clan heir, there was an inkling in the back of his mind that Asuma might come and meet up again. He was right. I am always willing to do what is best for the village, Asuma-kun, especially for someone such as yourself. Before we get into that training though, tell me more about Minato's child. Asuma smirked when he heard this. There was always something that Danzo wanted in when someone asked him something. Thankfully this time he only wanted to know about Naruto. As far as the people that actually mattered in the hierarchy of Konoha, Naruto was far too much of a political figure even if the boy didn't know it yet to convert him into a root operative. Well, I can't fully say that yet, but I think he definitely has enough potential to be damn good. He's as good as what I was at his age, but he has done all of this without the help of a private tutor like I had. I'm impressed to see what he will be like when he actually has a proper sensei to teach him everything. His chakra reserves are already the size of a special jonin thanks to his mother and father. What type of shinobi do you envision him as when he is older? Danzo questioned, mulling over how to get the most of the potential that Asuma talked about if it was indeed true. With all three of the Sannin having gone walkabout, the veteran shinobi was very much keen to get some world beaters in their force. The closest person I can think of similar in terms of Naruto's potential would be Jiraiya-sama. He seems like the army-destroying type rather than the assassination type, Asuma stated, to which Danzo nodded. This made Minato's son even less of a prospect for the NBU. Whilst Jiraiya happened to be very good at stealth, he was much better at a frontline fighter. He could take out armies thanks to his higher-than-average chakra pool. Yes, he wouldn't get attempt to convert the boy, but it wouldn't hurt to put in a few good words or two. Unaware of the talk going on between his sensei and his sensei's sensei, Naruto took up the advice of Asuma and started drinking milk, and lots of it. Now that he was undertaking missions on a consistent basis that were higher than D rank, he hoped, Naruto knew he could now be a little less frugal with his money. It was no real surprise to anyone that bothered to know the boy that his first splurge with his hard-earned money was on food. There just so happened to be a place called the Chiraku Ramen that he had found for the first time. It was absolutely full of flavor because the best flavors always came from fat. The staff at the store happened to also be very nice, so that was a bonus. After having the ramen, Naruto made his way into a supermarket and got his favorite thing in the world. It wasn't often that Naruto got to have it, as the orphanage only received it once in a blue moon, but Naruto was going to celebrate. The blonde-haired boy bought 2 cartons each containing 2 liters of chocolate milk. It was a delicacy to all of the kids at the orphanage, as the place heavily relied on donations from the generous public. It wasn't often that the milk got delivered, but when it did, it was a mad rush between the kids so that they could get at least 1 glass. When he came out of the orphanage, he could have spent money on milk, but Naruto thought that there were more important things that he could be doing, like saving up and drinking water instead. This was not an issue for Naruto, as he was now the proud owner of 2 jugs of chocolate milk. There was nothing that could ruin his day. Surprisingly enough, Naruto had the patience to make it all the way back to his tiny apartment without opening the 2 bottles. When he did get home, however, oh boy, it was game on. Naruto didn't even bother pouring the milk into a glass before drinking it. He instead started going straight from the bottle and chugged the entire 2L bottle in one go. Ah! Naruto sighed in content as he licked the mini mustache that had been left behind. Now that his fix had been satiated, Naruto could now relax with the second one and drink it slower and potentially enjoy it more. Before he could do that though, something weird started happening for the blonde. His body felt weird. It felt like his internal structure was moving, and it was actually kind of painful. The genin could feel most of the pain coming from his fingers and was surprised and a little bit nervous when he looked down at his fingers and noticed that they had become a few shades whiter than normal. The worst part was that didn't seem like it was stopping anytime soon. If anything, it only served to get worse and worse. That was until Naruto hissed out in pain. White stuff. At this point, Naruto couldn't focus enough to discern what it actually was, started coming out of his fingers. Once he opened his eyes, Naruto screamed. Ah! The boy shouted as he looked down and saw bones coming out of his skin. He was freaking the fuck out. He had no idea what to do. He had never read anything like this happening in one of the textbooks at the academy. There was a stray thought in the back of Naruto's mind that told him that he should be using his chakra. After all, chakra was the substance that allowed Naruto to breathe fire. Who knew what other applications it had? That stray thought turned out to be a lifeline for Naruto, who managed to get the bones to back into his skin. Whilst it hurt, that was pretty fucking cool, Naruto said to himself, and he attributed the bones coming out of his hands due to the milk. The genin shinobi took a sip from the second carton and then tried to channel chakra into his fingertips again. This time was significantly less painful, and also the bones came out of his skin a fair bit faster this time. Curiosity killed the cat, they always say, and Naruto could definitely agree with the sentiment, as he touched the bone that was sticking out of his hand with one of his fingers. Ouch, Naruto muttered to himself as he realized that the damn things were sharp. It took a few seconds, but eventually, the light bulb went off inside the head of Naruto. He could use these as weapons. The possibilities were endless. As it turned out, Naruto had a bloodline limit called the Dead Bone Pulse, or at least that was what he figured it was called. There wasn't much time in the day after he had found out about the issue to go to the library and research it up, but from the limited time he did have, he learned the bloodline was based around an ability which let the user manipulate their skeletal structure and use it as a weapon. He thought it was pretty weird, but he wasn't going to complain about it one bit. It was another tool that he could use at his disposal. He had no idea how he was going to use it, let alone make the most out of the new ability that he had, but he was going to try his best. One thing that Naruto was aware of, though, was the fact that it could come across as gross and disgusting. He didn't have many friends ever since his tenure at the academy ended, so Naruto wanted to give a good first impression. He didn't particularly want to burn the chance of making friends the first time he met them by showing how much of a freak he was. He had woken up bright and early just as the sun was rising and got himself as prepared as he could for his first day on Team 10. He had no idea what he needed, but he had 2 storage scrolls on him which were full just in case. Today was the beginning of a new lease on his shinobi career, and Naruto was definitely going to make the most out of it. "Who are you?" a blonde-haired girl demanded as she noticed Naruto walk into the clearing that she had deemed hers. On first inspection, he had to admit that she looked pretty good. None of the other girls who were in his year looked as good as this one did. "I'm Naruto," he replied to the girl, who seemed to accept this answer for a minute before inquiring about the boy with her hands on her hips and her head leaning forward. "Well, what are you doing here?" she demanded. After what had happened recently, she wasn't in a particularly friendly mood. The attitude which was coming across from this girl wasn't something that he particularly liked. It made his initial assessment on her attractiveness go down quickly. "I'm here to join a new team, and going by the looks of things, I will be joining this team with your friend over there." Apparently this wasn't something that the girl wanted to hear. "Well, fuck off," the formerly pretty, now ugly girl shouted in his face. "We don't need you." Even as she said this, her teammate looked up at her in shock. Naruto noted that this was probably out of the ordinary for the girl, but he wasn't going to let her take a free shot at him. "Me and Chuji will manage just fine without you. Asuma-sensei will train us so hard that we will destroy 3-man genin teams with only 2 people. We don't need a replacement for Shikamaru," the girl passionately declared, to which Naruto was slightly impressed by. He didn't like the girl, but he could at least appreciate her work ethic. It was what you needed to get to the top. "It's nice to see you 3 have met. Now, if names haven't been given yet, I will do that all for you. This here is Ino Yamanaka," Asuma mentioned as he pointed to the lone girl in the team. "The guy sitting down there looking up at the clouds is Chuji Akimichi." It was at this point that Chuji gave a brief wave of his hand to show that he was not dead. "Finally, Ino and Chuji, this is your new teammate Naruto Uzumaki. He is a genin who graduated a year before you." Ino looked like she was just about to burst out in a rebuttal of this, but Asuma saw it coming. "Look, Ino. I don't care if you don't like him, I really don't, but you will not question this order, and you will do your best to have the best teamwork bar none. Do I make myself clear?" the bearded jonin stated in a commanding tone. It dared anyone stupid to question him. Ino was tempted to take him up on that offer, but after a stare down between the two, she wisely decided to back down and let her sensei finish speaking. "Good," Asuma said in response to Ino backing down. "Alright. Now I will be the first to admit that I made a few mistakes on the last mission." Before Asuma could continue on, he was stopped by Ino. "It wasn't your fault, sensei. It was that pathetic piece of drunk trash's fault for Shikaku having to bail us out," Ino stated as tears started coming out of her eyes. With his life having been taken away so abruptly, it made the blonde-haired girl realize just how much of a bad friend she had been. The platinum blonde vowed on that day to become a much better friend to Chuji, as he was the last remaining person of her extended family. Being the prideful girl that she was, Ino quickly wiped away the tears from her face. The surprising thing for Asuma was that Ino wasn't wearing any makeup. He would wait and see just how long this lasted. "Thanks for that, Ino. What I should have said that was that we can definitely learn from what happened. I initially wanted to let you guys see what a real mission was like after some basic training to make sure you could function well as a team. I've seen the error in that and have decided that we are going to be on a month-long boot camp. We won't be taking any missions until the month is over from now, and you three have improved dramatically in skill. It's not that I think that you're bad shinobi, I just want to make you three so overqualified for whatever mission you are going on that nothing bad happens. Asuma lectured to his students who nodded, although Naruto knew that it was going to be a hit to his bank account. He wouldn't have time to take as many missions as what he used to. He was going to have to watch what he spent his money on. It was a calculated investment on the part of Naruto. He would lose some potential earnings in the short term to make dividends in the long term through higher ranked missions as a jonin. First thing that I want you three to do is tree climbing. All of you come over here, Asuma said as he pointed to 3 trees. What I want you to do is channel chakra into your feet and plant them on the tree. When you try and leave the ground, you will feel a pull on your chakra, and it relates to how much weight you have to balance. The more weight you have, the more chakra you have to use. Here, I will give you an example, Asuma said and demonstrated how to do chakra climbing. All 3 of the genin were wide-eyed as they saw just what their sensei was capable of. They didn't know that anything like this was possible. It is probably best if you start lying down with your feet at the base of the tree. Walk up as slow as possible. Now get to it, Asuma stated, to which the trio nodded. They didn't want to lose amongst their peers, and Naruto himself wanted to give a good impression to his 2 new teammates. Ino was the first of the group to go, and to Naruto's surprise, she got it first go. It was a little shaky at the start, but once her mind-muscle connection got in sync, it was a piece of cake for the blonde girl. Ha! This is too easy, sensei. Was this supposed to be hard or something? Chuji was up next, and he managed to make it halfway up before he had to let go and fell down to the ground. His ingrained training meant that he landed fine, and no damage was done. Unlike Ino, Chuji was simply silent during his first attempt at tree climbing. Naruto watched the other 2 with a keen eye and also remembered how he improved his chakra control earlier by doing the leaf balancing exercise but with heavier objects. A determined look appeared on the face of Naruto as he had a general idea of what he wanted to do. It was even sketchier than when Ino attempted it, and it looked like for a moment that he could screw it up, but the perseverance of the boy shone through and he staggered for a bit, and before taking a big deep breath. Once his mind was cleared, Naruto calmly walked up the tree on his first time. Asuma was impressed with Naruto. He fully expected Ino to get it on her first go simply for the fact that she had horrendous chakra reserves, which by virtue gave her superb chakra control. Chuji was about on par, but Naruto was the real surprise. For someone with such a large supply of chakra at such a young age, it was impressive. Alright then. Ino and Chuji, stick with tree climbing. Naruto, come with me, Asuma stated, and Naruto nodded. Hey! Wait a minute! Why does he get to go and do something new when I did even better than him? Ino shouted out from the top of the tree. She was furious that this guy was getting what she thought was special treatment. Naruto himself was curious because he too thought that the girl did better than him. It's because your chakra reserves are ridiculously small, Ino. I want you to keep doing this until you physically cannot do any more. Ino, you really need to build up your chakra reserves. Chuji, just keep attempting to get to the top. You will get there soon, and once you do, I want you to come join me and Naruto, the bearded jonin stated, to which the boy nodded. Alright Gaki, now follow me, the sensei of the team said, to which Naruto nodded. Alright, what I want you to do here is try and walk on water like you do going up trees. The only difference this time around though is that the surface of the water is always constantly changing, so you will need to be able to fluctuate your chakra levels so that you keep balance. I'll be coming back, and whether you have water walking down, we will be moving on to something else. Naruto nodded and had a determined look on his face. He was going to complete this. With the warm-up out of the way, it is now time for my favorite part. This is the part where I break you, haha. The grin on the face of Asuma made the 3 shinobi in training grimace with fear. They didn't know what the man planned to do, but they knew that it wasn't exactly going to be pretty. We're going to be doing some physical training, so drop down and give me 10 push-ups, Asuma stated in a tone that demanded compliance. But Asuma-sensei, I don't want to become buff. Sasuke-kun won't like a muscly steroid freak for a girlfriend, Ino complained. Not so much because she was afraid of putting in the work, but because she wouldn't like the outcome it provided. Ino, do you want bigger boobs? When he saw the nod from the girl, Asuma continued on. Well, do some push-ups. Do you want that flat stomach? Well, do some planks. Do you want a nice firm butt? Do some squats. Do you want to get rid of your wobbly arms? Well, you get cracking on those chin-ups. Ino still didn't look convinced after this from her sensei, so he tried going at it from a different angle. Ino-chan, do you think that Kurenai looked really good when she came up to pick her team? When he saw the vigorous nod, Asuma knew that he had won. Well, the two of us are good friends and we've trained together, and I know that she does all those exercises and more to get her body looking the way it does. Oh, so you're good friends with Kurenai-sensei and you have seen her train heaps. Is there something that you aren't telling us, sensei? The previously angry tone turned into something more upbeat and devilishly curious. A bead of sweat went down the side of Asuma's face. Well, you see, stop stalling and give me some damn push-ups, Ino. Asuma replied as he attempted to get control of the situation at hand. Naruto took notice on his fifth push-up that maybe Ino wasn't that bad. He had no idea what it was like to lose someone close to him. He guessed that this was just part of the grieving process. Shaking his head, Naruto got back to work as Choji was beating him in the push-up. Ino managed 7 push-ups, Naruto managed 20, but Choji was the winner here with 24. Alright, you guys have 2 minutes rest and then you're going to do as many push-ups as you can again. Ino didn't like it, but apart from a few grumblings, there was no real form of rebellion. The next time around the numbers were a fair bit different. Choji was the big difference as he got 20, Naruto got 19 whilst Ino still hit 7 push-ups. It just went to show what the trio needed to work on. Choji needed to build endurance, Naruto needed to build muscular strength, and Ino needed to build both. This continued on for 5 sets before Asuma decided to change things up, much to the joy of his students. You guys are doing the exact same thing this time around, but you are doing dips. I guess I see why Guy likes doing this so much, Asuma said to himself, as he trailed off towards the end. The trio complained but got set out on doing the dips. Ino wanted to cry, her chest and triceps hurt so much. The only reason why she was still doing this was because of her desire to get bigger boobs, just like Asuma had told her it would. Just when they thought it over, as their sensei had told them that it was the last exercise involving their chests. A cheer of jubilation from Ino was a bit too early though, as Asuma chuckled once more. What, you think that was it? Oh no! You guys get to do pull-ups. If all 3 of you make it through this workout, then I'll shout you guys lunch. Ino could only groan. Death. That was literally what Naruto felt like he was experiencing. Every single part of his body was absolutely aching. He was feeling sore in every single muscle group that he knew of and some that he didn't even know existed. The only reason why the boy continued on was because of his desire for free food. He was beyond starving, and the thought of not having to part with his hard-earned cash was something that Naruto was very much interested in exploring. Good work, kids. You just completed the workout, now go and drink some water and stretch out your body. If you don't, you will be extra sore tomorrow morning. What Asuma didn't tell these kids was that they would be very sore tomorrow morning whether they stretched or not. Just so you guys know, that is the workout that I used when I was trying to go from Chunin to Jonin. You guys did really well and I'm proud that you didn't give up, Asuma stated as he took a drag from his cigarette. You know, sensei, that's really bad for you, Naruto said with a look of annoyance on his face. I'm not going to stop, so you are gonna have to get used to it, Gaki, and if you're not down with that, then I've got 2 words for you: no food. Naruto looked horrified at prospect of no free food, so he wisely stopped his lips from moving. Ino, who looked on at the scene, found a little bit of respect for her new teammate. At least he didn't like Asuma smoking as much as she did. Today was just going to be some training, so you 3 are all free to go, but remember, I want you at the training ground ready to train at 8 in the morning. When his 3 students nodded, Asuma prepared to leave but stalled when he saw his newest one look at him as if he was going to ask a question. Yes? Asuma asked with a curious expression on his face. He waited for his student to speak up. Naruto looked a little unconvinced as to whether or not to talk about it, and he was kind of having second thoughts. Asuma-sensei, not around here. There is something that I want to talk to you about, but not around here. This made the Jonin-sensei curious, so he nodded. He wanted to hear what Naruto had to say. The 2 of them made their way to the training ground once more to provide an ideal location to talk in private. So what is it that you want to tell me, Naruto? Asuma questioned now that they were in the clearing. Naruto gulped. There was no backing out now. Sensei, when you said yesterday to drink heaps of milk, my body had a reaction, and I'm not quite sure if it was a good one or a bad one yet. Now this definitely got the curiosity of the Jonin, and he waited for Naruto to continue on speaking. When I had the milk, I felt my body moving internally, and then this happened. As Naruto said this, he concentrated on his hand and Asuma watching in fascination as a bone came out of each and every finger of Naruto's right hand. Amazing! Asuma said as he couldn't believe what his eyes were telling his brain. Never in a million years did he think he would see another Kage of Bloodline. One of the first people he went up against in a Chunin exam was a holder of the Dead Bone Pulse Bloodline limit. He saw firsthand just how dangerous the bones could be when used as weapons. This opens up so many possibilities, Asuma stated as his mind was racing with the reveal of something groundbreaking in terms of Konoha. Also, if it wasn't for the fact that the Mist Village was so weak at the moment, it could potentially start a war. Alright Naruto, I'm thankful for you telling me that. Tomorrow when we are training, we will start attempting to incorporate your bloodline into your taijutsu. For now though, what I want you to do is go home and start practicing making the bones come out as quickly as possible and also from as many spots on your body as possible. Naruto nodded. Also Naruto, don't advertise the fact that you have the bloodline. At the moment you aren't strong enough to fight off potential kidnappers who could come after you. This put the fear into Naruto. How was it going to make tons of bank if there were threats to his life? That being said, if you are in a position where you or any of your comrades' lives are in jeopardy, I want you to use it, you got that? Naruto once more nodded at what Asuma was saying. This time though it was slightly more forceful. Good. Now I want you to go home and practice with your bloodline. Also Gaki, with you having the dead bone pulse ability, calcium is going to be your best friend, so I want you drinking copious amounts of milk and eating a lot of cheese. Naruto merely smirked when he heard this. Hearing orders that he had to drink milk and lots of it was not the worst thing in the world to hear at all. Yeah, he was definitely going to drink lots of chocolate milk. Oh, and cheese wasn't that bad either. Whilst you're doing that, I am going to find some training material on how best to train your bloodline. It's rather unique to say the least, Asuma said whilst chuckling. When he finished saying this, the two of them went their separate ways. As Naruto went to go and splurge on chocolate milk, the Jonin tossed up some ideas in his head on whether or not he should do something. In the end he decided that for the safety of his student, he should, and he didn't want another student's death on his conscience. Asuma headed towards his sensei Danzo once again. I am surprised you have come to visit me so soon since our last meeting. Generally it is at least a year between visits. Danzo stated without even opening his eyes. Asuma grimaced. No matter how many times he spoke with his sensei, every single time, he still felt like a child. Sorry, I'll try to come here more often. Actually, the reason why I am here is because of some interesting recent developments. Danzo didn't speak. He simply waited for his student to continue on speaking. Correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't bloodlines created from children of Jinchuriki? Asuma questioned, which made the single visible eye of Danzo actually become visible when his eyes widened. Admittedly, he had forgot about that fact, and this was compounded by the fact Minato's son had not shown any signs of having a bloodline. From the way that his student was speaking, that was not the case. It seemed the fourth Hokage's son had a bloodline, but which one was the question? Seeing the multitude expressions going on the face of Danzo, Asuma continued on. Naruto has the dead bone pulse of the Kagaya clan. When he heard this, Danzo was internally licking his lips. Out of all the Kekkei Genkais that were out in the world, in the veteran shinobi's mind, the bloodline of the Kagaya clan was the most valuable. It seems that Minato had some Kagaya DNA inside of him when his father moved from the Mist Village into Konoha. That combined with Kushina being the Jinchuriki must have been enough for the boy to obtain the Kekkei Genkai. Danzo mused to himself. Once Minato started becoming even close to becoming the Hokage, the War Hawk made it his mission to find out as much information about the orphan boy as possible. He managed to find out more than the boy himself knew. Yes, so as you can see, Danzo-sensei, having a bloodline such as this on my team makes it difficult to fully train Naruto to become the best that he can be. The brat told me that he only manifested the bloodline last night when he drank a lot of calcium. When he told me about this just a little while ago, I told him to spend all night practicing on making the bones come out of every angle as fast as possible. Danzo nodded in agreement. Yes. You have done the right thing. If memory serves me correct, in my old age, the Kagaya could also fire finger bone bullets off at people, so get the child to work on that as well. Whilst that is happening, I will send some root shinobi to Kirigakure and get them to steal as many clan secrets about the Kagaya clan as possible. He will still have to recreate whatever jutsu that are found, but at least having the writing will make the boy be able to do it. Asuma was surprised. For someone like Danzo, that was definitely high praise. Out of all of the genin that Asuma had seen, he thought that Naruto was the best of the lot, even if he was a little biased. The only contender for that title would be the Hyuga on Guy's team. Now tell me, Asuma-kun, what have you told Naruto to do with his ability? I've told him to keep it under wraps for the time being. If he needs to use it, then by all means use it, but don't advertise the fact you have it. Danzo nodded in agreement. It wasn't so much the threat of Kirigakure sanctioning a war with Konoha that worried the Warhawk. Konoha was more than powerful to deal with that war-torn state with ease if it came down to it. No, it was the potential assassins/kidnappers that Danzo wanted to keep at bay. He had protected Sarutobi's grandson on a few occasions, and now it seemed that he was going to be doing that for Minato's son. A promising shinobi like the brat could not die whatever the cost. Danzo knew he was getting old and knew that with Sarutobi and himself gone, there would only be one other shinobi amongst their ranks that could scare off the strongest ninjas, and that was Jiraiya. Whilst Kakashi and Guy were very good fighters, none of them had built up a reputation through the war to fend off an invasion with just their name. Also, either of them were truly elite S-class shinobi. Guy definitely was, but that was also a move that would hinder more than help the man. That was why this upcoming generation was so important to Danzo. It had 3 shinobi that could be Kage-level shinobi if they had the right circumstances in front of them. Sasuke Uchiha, the Sarutobi's grandson and Minato's son. All 3 of them had the potential to be world-class shinobi. Now that Konoha had the dead bone pulse, Danzo had made it his own mission to give the boy everything he needed to become the best of the best. Konoha's survival at the top depended on it. It wouldn't hurt if from this training a potential Kage was born. That was what Minato had sketched into to be originally. Danzo knew that the best thing that a shinobi village could have was stability in its leadership. Constant infighting would only weaken the village. Jiraiya would not be a good fit for the position regardless of his personality and desire for the job. No, they needed someone younger who could lead the village into prosperity for the better part of half a century, just like Hiruzen had done. And if he could help make whoever that shinobi just so happened to be of how the world worked, then the old war veteran knew he could die a happy and fulfilled life knowing that he had done his very best for the village he loved. The 2 wise shinobi stayed talking with one another for a little while before Danzo had to go and attend to his position as head of the ANBU. Asuma nodded and headed out with the man. Once they were out in the fresh air, the 2 went their separate ways and Asuma went to go practice the information that the scroll on vacuum manipulation provided courtesy of his former sensei. The next morning came and Naruto made his way to the training ground. He seriously hoped that he wouldn't be tasked with doing the same workout or even a similar workout because that last one absolutely destroyed him. Asuma mentioned that today was going to be taijutsu focused today, so whilst not specifically targeting muscles, they would no doubt get some activity thrown their way. He even did what his sensei had told him and eat tons of meat and drink lots of milk, and yet he was still sore all over. He hated to imagine what it would be like if he didn't do any of these things. The upside of this though was that because of all of the milk, Naruto felt really strong. Naruto put it down to the calcium which he had been studying up on ever since he found out about his special ability. Naruto was giddy. It had only been 1 day with having a proper sensei, but he was already seeing far more results now than he ever did when training by himself. He couldn't wait to see where he was at in 2 to 3 months' time. As he walked to his new home away from home, which was Training Ground 10, Naruto had to take a double look. There was one of his teammates sitting down next to a tree, and he had to admit that even though her best form of contraception was her personality, she still looked pretty good. Ino meanwhile noticed this and couldn't help but externally smirk and internally giggle. The problem with going after a guy such as Sasuke Uchiha was the fact that you never got any form of reinforcement that you did indeed look good. Seeing the new guy, she hadn't even bothered to learn his name yet. Look at her like that made the Platinum Blonde's confidence go even higher than it already was, not that she needed it or anything. Now that she looked at the boy who was apparently a year older than herself, she noticed that he wasn't half bad. Obviously he was no Sasuke-kun, but then again who was? If he put some muscle on that bony frame of his, he would look pretty good. At the moment, he was average, but Ino was sure that if she had some money to spend, she could make him look good. Ever since the death of her brother from another mother, Shikamaru, Ino had had an epiphany. Boys were no longer as important to her as what they once were. Sure, she was still just as shallow and judged boys solely on their looks, but she had higher priorities now. Ino now wanted to focus on her career so that when she did have her downtime, she would be able to enjoy it in the company of all of her friends. She didn't want to see anyone that she cared about die like Shikamaru. The blonde-haired girl had even taken it upon herself to spend a fair bit of time with Shikaku and learn as much as she possibly could from the man. Of course, none of this was related to the shadow jutsus that the clan was famous for around the world. Ino simply had the opinion growing up that Shikaku was the smartest man in the world, and she wanted to learn battle strategy from such a man. If she could be half as smart but twice as determined as Shikamaru, Ino deemed that she would consider it a success. Not only had she asked Shikaku for help, but Ino had gone straight to her father and demanded more intensive training on their clan's special jutsus. If that wasn't enough to tell people that Ino Yamanaka was now taking her shinobi career seriously, then the fact that she had quit her diet definitely did. She no longer solely ate soup and celery for her sole sources of nutritional content. Thanks to the help of Chuza, Ino was now eating the right food for a growing kunoichi her age. The blonde was willing to gain a fair bit of fat if it meant that she was able to protect her friends. The funny thing was that Ino hadn't noticed the change on the scales. Her father had simply told her that she was exercising a lot more and needed a substantial increase in the amount of fuel she was ingesting. What her mother had told her, though, was far more important as far as the girl was concerned. Fat was very much important in the process of hormone development. It also helped keep your skin healthy and your hair shiny. Most importantly, though, fat was what gave your boobs mass. When she heard that, Ino was sold. 1 month. That's how much time had passed since Naruto had joined Team 10. Sure, his finances had been affected a bit with the fact that he was not going on as many missions as what he used to, but the offset in the amount of training that he was getting in return more than made up for it. Come on, Choji, is this the best that you have? Naruto demanded as he launched a punch at the Akimichi clan member. There was a look of conflict on the face of Choji as he didn't want to hurt his friends. Yes, that was right, Naruto had his first friends since becoming a member of the team. Choji was a really nice boy as far as Naruto was concerned, but he lacked the conviction in being able to carry through. There was no way that he would be able to get away with that in the field. I don't to hurt you, Naruto, Choji replied. Ever since the death of Shikamaru, Choji had been undecided on whether or not he wanted to be a ninja. The good thing about Naruto was that for the first time since his best friend left him to a better place, Naruto had not once asked him about Shikamaru. It was a respite that Choji was very grateful for. It allowed the Akimichi to be what he was, a boy. Naruto was frustrated meanwhile. He wanted a proper opponent on his level. He wanted someone that he could fight against and not get utterly trounced, which was what happened whenever he fought up against Asuma-sensei. It wasn't just that though for financially motivated ninja. He didn't want to see his friend choke up on a mission which could potentially cost his life, or even worse. For the past month he had been trying his hardest to get Choji to come out of his shell and fight properly. No wonder Shikamaru died. The second that Naruto said this, you could hear a pin drop as everyone went completely silent. All three of them waited with bated breath to hear what Naruto was going to say, because what he had just said was something very hard to come back from. What did you just say? Choji shouted back at Naruto, although his head was facing the water below. Asuma mused that unlike the other times that Choji got angry, this time he was completely calm about it, but the man knew that Choji was about to burst. He couldn't wait to see how this went down. Choji was the type of person who pulled punches. That was something that he needed to stop, as it could potentially cost either himself or an ally their life. You heard me, a frustrated Naruto shouted out. I said no wonder Shikamaru died when you're so much of a coward that you won't even take your training seriously. You know that all this is going to do is make your friends die. I bet you would love to see the bitchy princess over there die as well. I bet you would be too scared to do anything to save her as well, Naruto shouted. I may have just gone a bit overboard there. Oh well, what's the worst that could happen? Naruto thought to himself, and that was when he saw a pissed-off Choji stare into his eyes. Oh shit. Choji wasn't the only one furious with what Naruto had just said. Ino hated what her new teammate had just said to her best male friend. She didn't even care about the bitchy princess comment as to her, that was more of a compliment rather than an insult. The fact that he insulted the memory of her brother in all but blood was tantamount to death in her eyes. Ino sped off the water at a fast towards Naruto as she wanted to get in on the action and punch the shit stain in the face. Choji had joined in by enlarging his hands and sprinted towards Naruto. Yeah, this is about to get ugly, Naruto thought to himself, as he had never fought two opponents at once. On instinct, Naruto brought his bloodline to the forefront and had some bones stick out of his skin. They weren't really there for offense, but more so as a deterrent to the two teammates who wanted to kill him. Thankfully for Naruto, the speed at which Ino fought at was not the same one that he did. She simply didn't have the same amount of muscle on her body as he did, and this meant that Naruto was simply too fast for her to be able to deal with. Ino knew this. This didn't deter the blonde-haired girl, as she had a plan. Choji! Now! Ino screamed, and Naruto barely had time to turn around and watch a fist collide right in his stomach. The only place that he had no bones sticking out. Naruto skidded along the water. Not done with that, Choji quickly followed over to Naruto in an attempt to land another vicious punch on the person who dishonored Shikamaru. This fight is over, Asuma stated whilst he was grinning. Choji, that was amazing. You just need to channel that whilst you're on a mission and you will easily defeat everyone, Asuma said as he stared at the murderous expression on the face of his pleasantly plump student. As this was happening, Naruto was slowly picking himself out of the water as blood dribbled down his chin. Finally, Choji, that was what I wanted to see. Where has that been all this time? I've been trying to get you to do things like that for the past month. Naruto complimented his teammate as that punch had more strength behind it than one of Asuma's. What? All of this was some little game to you. You're such an asshole, Naruto team. Ino shouted out at her teammate only by title. She hated the fact that Naruto brought up Shikamaru to Choji. She hated to admit it, but back during the academy, When Choji was getting bullied for being called fat, she definitely didn't do as much as she could to stand up for him. Shikamaru was that person for her brown-haired friend, and now that he was gone, Ino took it upon herself to be that person for Choji. Sure, she could be the absolute most heinous bitch in existence, but when it came to her family and friends, then Ino was very loyal. She had even attempted to patch things up with Sakura recently, but that went sour when the pink-haired girl thought that Ino was doing this as an attempt to lull her into a false sense of security, and then swoop in and take Sasuke-kun all for herself. The truth was that Ino wasn't trying to do this, and it made her realize just how childish she and Sakura had been when attempting to win Sasuke's heart. The truth was that the two of them hadn't been friends for a long period of time ever since Sakura decided that she also liked Sasuke after Ino had told Sakura about her crush on the young Uchiha. It was then and there that Ino had decided that she was going to give Sakura one more chance in the future. She was not sure when, and if that backfired just like last time, then she was going to throw in the towel in terms of trying to salvage a friendship out of Sakura. The platinum blonde-haired girl was blindsided when Choji spoke. Thanks, Naruto, I needed that. I've been trying to get over my emotions, but today was the first time I went into a fight with the intent to kill, and you're right. I did choke on our first mission, but I promise I won't ever choke again on a mission, Choji passionately stated, to which Naruto and Asuma had a look of respect on each of their respective faces. Ino was different. What? How can you thank him? He should be saying sorry for saying bad things about Chika. Choji chuckled and shook his head. Guys can be friends after fighting, unlike you and girls, Ino. Once you fight someone, you hate them life. Choji hadn't really had much experience with lots of girls. He had just had experience with Ino, and knew that she was very much known for holding grudges. Yeah, you just need to clean out your bag since you've been on Shark Week, Naruto commented from behind Ino. Said blonde-haired girl rapidly turned around and stared at Naruto in disgust. You! Go screw yourself, you dirty pig! That's enough, you two, Asuma stated, to which the three of them deferred to his command. They all knew that when he spoke, which wasn't often, that his word was law. Asuma couldn't help but be impressed at the transformation that had happened to his three students. Out of the three of them, Choji was the one who had progressed the least, but that was because he was the most finished product in terms of shinobi abilities in comparison to his two teammates. The only real thing that the brown-haired boy needed was to become more confident in himself and to follow through with his punches. That being said, Choji had gotten to the point where he could now fight whilst standing on water. For the boy who was the worst when it came to chakra control out of the three of them when they first started, this was something that made the boy proud of his accomplishments. Not only had his strength improved but also his speed. The biggest difference between Naruto and Choji when they sparred was the fact that Naruto was a fair bit faster and could dodge the incoming attacks with relative ease. Choji quickly learned that it didn't matter if he could knock someone out with one punch if he could never hit them with that one punch. The faster speed in which he was able to move at was something that slightly trimmed the waistline. It was something that he hadn't really paid attention to, but come a few more months, and then he would realize that he had indeed lost a fair amount of weight. Choji had come to terms with the fact that he was always going to be a bit bulky in comparison to other shinobi simply because of the way his clan's special ninjutsu worked. Speaking of his clan's ninjutsus, Choji had been improving a lot in that area thanks to the increase in both capacity and control of his chakra network. His father had said that if he continued at the rate that he was going at, in a few months' time he would be able to go and use the mid-level techniques of the clan without any of the food pills. That was something that Choji was giddy about because he knew just how dangerous those things were, and he didn't want to have to use them unless absolutely necessary. Having more techniques to fall back on would mean less chance of that. Choji had even begun attempting to learn some basic Doton ninjutsu as per the request of Asuma-sensei after they had tested what affinity he had. This was in case his opponent ever had some sort of counter-maneuver against his clan jutsus. He had learned one defensive and offensive move. Choji was at the point where he couldn't really learn any more Doton ninjutsu by brute forcing the jutsu. He needed to start learning elemental manipulation if he wanted to make any more progress in that area. Choji wasn't the only person who made some gains over the past month. Naruto too had made promising progress. As expected, the primary focus on Naruto's training was centered around his bloodline limit. Naruto spent the majority of the time attempting to create a taijutsu style from scratch. Naruto had quickly learned that the best places for him to create the bones was from his joints. This meant knees, elbows, palms, and heels. They were the parts of the body where Naruto could draw the most power from and connect with the most damage. His taijutsu mostly centered around keeping his Kekai Genkai hidden until he got in striking range and then surprise people with it. One of the benefits of this style of fighting meant that he constantly had his skin reopen all the time. This, in combination with the fact that he was the son of a Jinchuriki, meant that Naruto's body had adapted to the recent changes and started healing Naruto faster than normal in comparison to other shinobi. That wasn't the only positive going on inside of Naruto's body at the moment. The influx of calcium did to his body. He felt great in how the mineral affected his bones and made them that much stronger. This wasn't the only benefit that the milk provided, as it was loaded with calories and protein, and this excess of nutrients meant that Naruto had put on a bit of muscle, so it didn't look like he was twig thin. It still looked like he was very skinny, but that was because his bones were much larger than normal. Still, this increase in muscle meant that Naruto was now faster and stronger. Not only that, but his stamina increased as well. Initially, Asuma had penciled Naruto in a mid-range ninjutsu juggernaut. This was solely based on his lineage, as having a Hokage and a Jinchuriki definitely meant that you would have higher chakra reserves than most other kids. Now when the Jonin looked at Naruto, he saw the boy being some kind of ninjutsu/taijutsu hybrid shinobi. The Yandame Reikage seemed to make it work pretty well. In the space of a month, Naruto had managed to learn the first stage of elemental manipulation, where he had to start a fire on a very green leaf and then keep it from touching the edges of the leaf. Now for Naruto, the next step for the blonde-haired boy was to do it with a dry, dead leaf. Eventually, the goal was to be able to do it with styrofoam, and then he would be delving into the realm of advanced katan manipulation. What Naruto had noticed was that thanks to getting the elemental manipulation down pat, his was able to upgrade his C-rank ninjutsus into B rank. It also meant that he didn't have to expend as much chakra compared to what he used to have to do to get the same result. It meant that Naruto now effectively increased his stamina. The blonde-haired boy had even learned a new jutsu completely from scratch. Admittedly, it was by no means the final version of the jutsu, but Naruto was proud with how far he had come with his bloodline. The jutsu that Naruto had recreated was the finer bullets that his sensei had told him about. The genin decided that he would fully perfect one bullet before moving on to the whole hand rather than just use all fingers, but very poorly. He wanted the jutsu to be a trump card that people wouldn't expect. But Naruto wasn't the person who had improved the most in the space of a month due to the hectic training regime that Asuma had begun putting them through. That was a title solely reserved for Ino. To be fair though to the others, when you were starting from such an untrained position, it meant that she was able to get the most improvement in the same amount of time frame compared to her teammates. The more skilled you became, the more effort you had to put in to get the same, or even less returns. Ino now no longer was just an academy student. She was a proper genin in the eyes of not only her sensei but also her teammates. She took her profession seriously. She no longer did fad diets in the attempt of impressing a boy, which affected her abilities as a shinobi. With her improved diet, Ino managed to build some muscle, which not only made her faster, stronger, gave her more longevity and stamina in a fight, but it also made her but firmer, boobs bigger, lose the flab under her arms, tightened her stomach up a bit. The little fat on her body had been converted into muscle, and the blonde-haired girl loved the changes it had done to her body. Not only did she still look good in her opinion, but she had the power to back it up. Not only had her physical attributes increased exponentially in the space of a month, but Ino's chakra reserves had done so too. Just like Naruto and Choji, Ino was the last out of the group to now be able to spar on top of the water's surface. At the end of her 1-month training boot camp, Ino was now able to spar on top of the water's surface whilst using jutsus. It wasn't just her clan's special ninjutsu that she was using either. Ino knew just how vulnerable she was since she wasn't as skilled as her father to stay conscious. That was why, under the suggestion from her sensei, the Yamanaka girl had decided to branch out and start incorporating genjutsu into her little bag of tricks. If all that wasn't enough, then Ino put her keen mind to good use when she was spending time with Shikaku in terms of learning strategy. She knew that that was the best thing that Shikamaru had going for him, and if she could be half as smart as he was, then she would be beyond happy. Finally, the last area that Ino had decided to take an interest was in the area of poison. If she was honest to herself, the only reason why she had decided to study this area was because working at a plant shop got boring quickly. During her downtime, Ino started reading up on what the most dangerous poisons were, and which plants she had to mix to create them. At the moment she hadn't made any vials yet, but she definitely planned to in the near future and tip her weapons with them to make them that much more potent. Hokage-sama, I request a mission for myself and my genin team, Asuma stated as he locked eyes with his father. There was a brief flash of concern in the eyes of the Sandaime Hokage as he knew that this was the first mission above a D rank that Asuma and 2 of his students had taken since the death of the Nara clan heir. Asuma-kun, you know that when it is just us two, you don't have to be so formal. Now, are you certain you want to take a mission so soon? Are your students even ready for this? The Hokage questioned, to which Asuma nodded. Sure, the 2 of them had been through a lot over the life of their relationship, and there had been more than one disagreement along the way, but Asuma valued the caring nature that his father still had for him. Yes, it's finally time to get back on that horse, as they say, and as for the standard of my students, well, I guess you will just have to wait until the upcoming Chunin exams, Dad, until you get to find out. Asuma said with a smirk pretty much taped onto his face. Hiruzen liked to see the confidence on the face of his second-born son. He couldn't help but be curious as to just how good his team must be for this much confidence to be showing. Asuma was normally the type of person to be quietly confident until he knew that he was going to win, then he would gloat so much. Him gloating this much might now meant that he thought that he had already won. Just how strong had his team gotten in the past month? From what he could remember of the team selections 2 months ago, there was nothing special about the Yamanaka and the Akimichi. Sure, they were promising shinobi, but they were nothing special. There was nothing that screamed out prodigy from when the team selections were made. That just left Minato's son. Again, there was nothing in his file that screamed out that he was going to be close to what his father was capable of. Admittedly, he hadn't bothered seeing what the boy was like himself, but that was mainly because he didn't care that much about the boy. From what he had heard was that he passed the academy with the second best grades in the class behind Niji Hyuga, but Kakashi failed him on his graduation test. Obviously, there was something bad about the boy. If Kakashi wasn't willing to take him, then there had to be something wrong with the boy, as he was certain that Kakashi would have taken him even if he wasn't up to standard just because of who the boy's father happened to be. He hadn't heard of Naruto improving any bit since becoming a genin a little over a year ago. Just what had the boy learned to be getting this much praise from his son? How good is Minato's son? Hiruzen honestly questioned to his son. He didn't think that Naruto would be as good as Konohamaru or even Sasuke Uchiha. That wasn't even including the 2 boys that guy had under his charge, who were both very good in their own right. Well, let's just say that if there was a fight to the death between Naruto and Sasuke, well, we would have to get Itachi somehow back in the village if we wanted to restore the Uchiha clan. If Naruto fought up against Konohamaru, well, then you would have to order Jiraiya back to Konoha to seal the Kyuubi once it is released. Asuma confidently stated. When the Chunin exams come up, I'd bet your Hokage's pension fund on having my whole team make the final in the Coliseum, and to see Naruto in the grand final. Even if I had Tsunade's betting luck, I would put money on it. That's a very big claim to make there, Asuma-kun. Alright then, I will play this game with you and give you the C-ranked mission that you have requested, and I am very much interested to see what Naruto can do during the Chunin exams. If there was anything that described Hiruzen, it was that he was a patient man, and he could easily wait until the upcoming Chunin exams in Konoha to see just how good Minato's son. Asuma merely smirked in response. With a scroll in his hand, Asuma walked to the training ground 10. He was giddy and also nervous. Despite the facade of supreme confidence, Asuma was actually pretty hesitant. No matter his feelings, he knew that he had to do this because the longer he left it, the more psychological damage it would do. It was better to face your fears than wallow in the despondence. Hey kids, so you remember when I said that we were going to have a 1-month boot camp before we did anything mission related, right? Well, I have judged you 3 being overqualified for going on missions, so guess what I have in my hands right here? Naruto was the first one to react out of the 3, as this was the first one that he had been on in 3 months. He was very much eager to test out his bloodline in a proper fight. It's a C-rank mission. How much does it pay? Naruto questioned, to which Asuma looked at him weirdly for a second. Each of you will be getting $400 for the completion of this mission. It is an escort mission. There is a family going on holidays in the south of Tea Country. We will be taking them from the capital of Hai no Kuni to their destination. We will be leaving them, and when they are leaving for the capital, another team will pick them up. Now I want you 3 to go home and pack for a mission. I expect you to be at the main gates in half an hour. I will be checking your packs to make sure that you have everything that is needed. Asuma stated, to which all 3 of the students nodded. Naruto's was immediate. Ino stalled for a bit before nodding, and Choji was quite hesitant as it seemed to be getting cold feet. Go, we don't have time to waste. Asuma commanded, which snapped Choji out of his state and made the boy head home to go and get prepared for the mission ahead. It worried Asuma when Naruto's first question was how much he was going to get paid doing this. It wasn't something that was that bad, as every shinobi had some sort of motivation, and as long as it was one that didn't affect the team, then he was all for it. If it came out that Naruto was solely focused on money though, then it always opened the potential for someone to attempt to bribe his student. Oh well, that is something that we can work on at a later date. Asuma thought to himself before he too went and packed the essentials for the mission. Ino wasn't looking forward to this. She knew her mother had today off and knew what this meant. The second her mother realized that she had a mission to prepare for, it was on like Donkey Kong. Her mother had made no secret of her feelings in the matter regarding her shinobi career. Ever since the death of Shikamaru, she had pulled no punches when it came to whether or not Ino should continue her career as a shinobi. The thing was that her mother had only started dating her father when he was transitioning from a field shinobi into the interrogation department. She didn't have to contend with the fact that someone she cared about could realistically die whilst on a mission. When the death of Shikamaru on the exact same mission that Ino was on, well, it rocked home for the civilian woman. She didn't want to imagine what would have happened if it had been her daughter who had taken the blow. For the past month since the death of Shikamaru-kun, she had been pressurizing Ino into dropping from the field and going into something like teaching. That way, she could still be a ninja without having to run the risk of potentially losing her life. As far as the mother was concerned, this was a win-win situation for her daughter. The worst part as far as Ino was concerned though was the fact that her father, a very good shinobi, wasn't even aiding her. He was taking the side of a civilian, even if he happened to be married to said civilian. Of course, Ino knew that both of her parents just wanted for her to be safe. It was just the fact that they had a really bad way of showing it as far as the platinum blonde-haired girl was concerned. Knowing that she had to say goodbye despite the tirade that she was going to get, Ino headed downstairs. "Mom, I'm going out on a mission. I won't be coming back until next week sometime." Ino didn't know how, didn't really want to know, but somehow, her mother had managed to close the distance far faster than any shinobi ever thought possible. "Really, you're going on a mission? What rank is it? Does your father know?" The rapid-fire questions came at Ino, and she attempted to answer them as best as she could. "Yes, Mom, I am going on a mission. I don't know, Sensei never told us, but I think it is a low C-rank mission. We aren't expecting any danger. Daddy doesn't know yet as I have yet to tell him. Can you please tell me for him, Mom?" Ino asked with a hopeful expression on her face. The mother nodded. "I will do that, but Ino, are you sure that you are ready to go on this mission? I know what you are going to say, but just hear your mother out. I don't want anything close to what happened to Shikamaru-kun to what happened to you. You're still so young. Why don't you go and get a position as a teacher or be an assistant to the Hokage?" Ino was taking in her mother's words until she heard that last part. She was no one's assistant. "Mom, we're not going to die. We're much stronger as a team now than what we were a month ago, and even more than that, our new guy, as much as I don't like to admit it, is about as strong as me and Choji combined. He is much stronger than what Shikakun was." This brought a giggle to the normally reserved woman. "Oh, so your new teammate is a boy? Is he cute?" "Mom!" Ino shouted as she had a scandalized look on her face. There were two people in the world that she did not want to speak to boys about, and one of them happened to be who she was talking to at that very point in time. "I don't want to talk about it. I suppose if you have to have an answer, he's alright, but he's no Sasuke-kun." She looked amused and raised a single eyebrow when she heard this. Out of everyone boy-related that Ino had talked about, no one had even registered on her radar outside of that Sasuke boy. To think that there could potentially be a new love interest definitely piqued the curiosity of Ino's mother. She thought that it would do Ino good since that Sasuke child never seemed at all interested in women from what she had heard through the grapevine. "I just want you to be ultra safe, honey. Promise me that you will come home with nothing permanent done to you," she worriedly stated as she looked into the eyes of her daughter for any sign of nervousness. It was a stark contrast to what she looked like a month ago before her first mission. Ino now looked like she had real confidence rather than just faking it until you made it. As much as she didn't like it, she knew that her daughter was ready to go on the mission, even if she was heavily against the idea. "I promise, Mummy. Now I have to go, otherwise I will be late," Ino said before giving her mum a hug and a peck on the cheek. With all the pleasantries said, the blonde hired girl left on her mission, praying that it didn't end like the last one with her having to deliver a body to the morgue. Half an hour later, and the four shinobi had made their way to the front gate of Konoha. "Alright kiddies, it's mission time, so let's get cracking." Naruto and Ino were excited as this was a change from the norm, but Choji couldn't help but feel something bad was going to happen. The quartet of shinobi headed out of the village for their first mission since the death of Shikamaru. As expected, the journey from Konoha to the capital was routine, if not boring. When they got to the capital, Tokyo, however, that was a different story. Naruto's eyes widened as he saw how many insanely tall buildings he saw. He could imagine just how much money was on offer in the city. The quartet walked into the city without having to go through any of the guards thanks to a simple bit of clothing that Asuma wore. Whenever anyone recognized that, they knew not to annoy the ninja. Asuma took a quick look at the location on the scroll and headed towards the destination with his 3 students following shortly behind him. Once they got there, Naruto and Ko were greeted with the sight of a mansion. Naruto's eyes widened as he realized that just from the outside, this was the type of house that he envisioned himself living in the near future. With reduction in missions that Naruto had been taking since he was training with his team, he hadn't been able to save any money. Sure, he hadn't lost any, but he hadn't gained any. He definitely hoped that that was about to change soon because he wasn't satisfied with mediocrity. Naruto was broken out of his trance when he heard the voice of his sensei. "Hi there, my name is Asuma and I will be the Jonin leading you on the mission that you have requested. These 3 shinobi here are my students Chuji, Ino and Naruto." As the man said this, he pointed to each of his students respectively. Ino in particular made it known to bow whilst Choji slightly nodded his head. Naruto wasn't used to situations like this, so he didn't really know what to do. This was something that annoyed the client, as he was a man who had worked hard for his position as a board member for some company. To see no respect at all from this kid was something that he was not pleased with at all. He was going to say something until he happened to see the sash that was on the sensei's waist. Asuma saw this and nodded. It told the man that he was in perfectly capable hands. The civilian relaxed as he knew that his holiday down to the south of Tea Country was going to go according to plan. The board member went back into his house as the quartet of shinobi followed him. When they got to the backyard, they spotted the rest of the family. There was his wife and a 1.5-year-old baby. Ino's heart melted when she saw just how cute the baby was. Naruto for his part couldn't help but feel slightly jealous. Not only did this kid get a set of functional parents, but judging from the fact that he assumed the baby was an only child, it was going to get spoiled rotten. He wished he had that when he was a kid. "Honey, the shinobi are here, so we have to go now," the man stated to his wife, who turned her attention from the baby for a second to nod at her husband. "Before we go, can I please get one of you to seal our belongings into those scrolls? As per the instructions, we have laid everything down on the ground and now just need some of that chakra stuff to store these," the man said. Despite the fact that he was a civilian, he had spent a fair bit of time around shinobi to know how these worked even if he himself couldn't use them. Ino took the initiative and bent down to seal the luggage all into 3 scrolls, which were then placed into a small carry bag. After everything was sorted and the house was locked, the group of both shinobi and civilians was on the road. "So, Asuma-san, how long do you expect this to take?" the board member questioned, to which the smoker thought about it for a second. "It should only take about 5 days worth of travel time, but since there is a baby, we might have some unexpected time delays," Asuma responded, to which the man nodded. "Well, that was fairly uneventful if I do say so myself," Naruto commented as the 4 shinobi made their way back from Tea Country with having completed a successful mission. Sure, a completed mission was the exact same regardless of whether or not there was any form of confrontation. It all went to his mission record, which at the moment stood at a perfect 100%, and he didn't plan on screwing that up any time soon. He was certain that when it came to the higher-ranked missions, people would go off your history. Naruto wanted all options available for when he became a Chunin. What Naruto didn't know was that he'd get whatever mission was given to him regardless. "Kid, you will quickly learn that a mission without conflict is a good thing, and you should treasure it," Asuma said after taking a drag from his cigarette. "You don't want to see death if you can avoid it, as nothing good comes from it," Asuma wisely stated. Both Ino and Choji nodded in agreement of this, as they had seen firsthand just how bad it could be. Naruto, on the other hand, was slightly different. He had made his first kill before, but he hadn't ever had someone close to him die on the front lines. That was potentially due to the fact that he never really had anyone close to him in the first place, but that was not the point. "I know that, sensei. It's just going on missions is the most fun that I get to have. Nothing beats the adrenaline rush you get when you are in a fight," Naruto responded to the comments of his sensei. "That's because that feeling is called bloodlust. Don't let it overcome you. Maybe you should try finding a hobby to occupy yourself during your downtime," Asuma stated, to which Naruto seemed to consider the idea. A hobby sounded pretty good for when he was done training at the end of the day. Ino closed her eyes, waiting for the final blow. The mission that she was on was one that had tested her to her absolute limits at the moment. She was hungry, sleep-deprived, wounded, just about out of chakra. To her surprise, it didn't happen. Instead, Ino had head smack into the hard ground below. She looked up, much to her horror, and noticed that once again, she had to be saved by one of her teammates. Fear welled up in body and tears started forming in her eyes. Naruto had taken the kunai that was aimed directly at her face with his shoulder. "Ah!" Naruto shouted as he felt the pain of the weapon pierce his skin. Naruto was much in the same position as Ino was. The only thing that was driving him on at this point was sheer willpower alone. Up until this point, he had a perfect mission record and he wanted to keep it that way. It wasn't just that though, Naruto didn't want to see his teammates get killed. He had come from an upbringing that didn't have many friends. The closest person who he could call his friend during the academy was Rock Lee, but ever since he had become a genin under the tutelage of the guy who needed a pair of large glasses with a fake nose attached to them to go with the cheap disguise he had going on with the eyebrows. Despite the fact that he and Ino weren't on the best of terms, to say the least, she was still important to him. Naruto thought he was just at the point where he was making progress, and in the near future, he might be able to make what he would call proper friends. He didn't want to lose them. Come on. We have to get up and help Choji, Naruto said as his will alone pulled him off the ground. Ino quickly followed Naruto when she heard the name of her other teammate. Ha ha ha, you three genin are nothing against us Chunin, the Kumobikyu man stated, which only served to infuriate Naruto that much more. Naruto was cursing himself as he didn't know what to do. He had tried everything that he could think of without using his bloodline. Naruto knew that wasn't supposed to use it, but at this point, he couldn't think of anything else that he could do. The blonde-haired genin pointed his right hand at the enemy. Go Tenchi Sendan. 5-finger drilling bullets. Naruto called out and fired all 5 of the bones at the cocky Chunin from Kumobikyu, who thought that the fight had already been won. Said Kumo ninja didn't know what jutsu Naruto had just used but wasn't willing to find out how much damage it did. He was surprised at the speed in which the bullets, or whatever they were, flew at him, and since there were 5 of them, it was very hard to dodge them. Unfortunately for the Kumo shinobi, one of the bullets hit him. He very much hoped that his Chunin flak jacket would save him, but it didn't. The bullet tore through the piece of clothing and exited out the other side of his chest cavity. The Chunin instantly dropped. Wheezing sounds came from the man as he panicked and struggled to get any form or air into his damaged lungs. Rage filled the eyes of the Chunin's teammates. They didn't think that some fresh minted genin could create such a destructive jutsu. They watched how their comrade dropped down to the ground, and they decided right then and there that playtime was over. It was time for them to kill these genin right now so that they could go and help their team leader against the Konoha Jonin. Naruto was still very much in pain from the kunai wound to his shoulder, got up and did his best to protect his 2 teammates. Choji was already in the land of sleep after having gotten knocked out from the taijutsu user of the group. He put up a brave front, but he wasn't sure how this was going to go down as the Chunin outclassed him in every way. Naruto, move! Ino shouted as she went through some hand signs right behind Naruto. The Chunin was rushing towards Naruto, and at the last second, Naruto dodged, which opened up the direct line from Ino to the Chunin. The blonde-haired girl didn't waste any time as she launched her clan's signature jutsu at the enemy. The blonde-haired girl's body slackened, and Naruto did his best to catch the body before it fell face first into the ground. Thankfully for the duo, this did not happen, as with a teammate like Ino, Naruto knew that he would never hear the end of it. Naruto, fire off that jutsu again, and I will exit the body when it is too late for him to dodge. Ino shouted as she didn't think that she had enough time to waste in this body. The genin nodded when he heard Ino say this and brought his hand up to fire off the ninjutsu. Before he could successfully do this though, someone punched Naruto right in the jawbone, which sent him flying. It was not lost for the genin of Konohagakure though, as mid-air, while still holding the body of Ino in the other hand, Naruto managed to fire off the finger bullets once more. Naruto fell to the ground as he fired off the jutsu. He didn't even have time to see whether or not his jutsu connected with the enemy, as there was a bolt of lightning coming his way. Naruto scrambled up whilst holding the body of Ino, and just barely managed to dodge the incoming attack. The blonde-haired boy made bones come out around his arm, and the genin used this to block the incoming attack. Futon, Shinkajioku, Wind Release, Vacuum Sphere! A voice shouted out, and much to the relief one genin shinobi, the final enemy that he had been up against, was now dead. It looked like you 3 could use a hand over here. A new voice stated, to which Asuma grinned as he pulled out a cigarette and started smoking it. I would hate the fact that you are being so calm about this if it wasn't for you having just saved our lives, sensei, Naruto dryly commented as he struggled to stand. But that would ruin the cool guy image that I have going on right now, Asuma replied back tongue-in-cheek. You know, Naruto, you can put me down now, a distinctly feminine voice stated, to which Naruto looked at the girl in his arms. Looking back on this moment, Naruto would have noticed this as the first time that Ino had called him something other than Naruto Baka. Nah, I don't think I will. You're much quieter now than what you normally are, Naruto replied with a bit of a grin on his face. To be honest, he didn't think much of his comment, as he was relieved that the mission was over and that they could call it a success. Ino, on the other hand. Oh, I see how it is, Goldilocks. You just want an excuse to put your hands all over sweet and innocent Ino-chan's body. I mean, I can't say that I blame you, but next time try and use some discretion. There was a smirk on the face of Ino's face as she felt Naruto's body lock up. One thing that the platinum blonde-haired girl had indeed noticed was the fact that one Naruto Uzumaki wasn't as oblivious to the opposite sex as, say, Sasuke Uchiha. She had seen him stare at her a few times, which made her self-esteem skyrocket. When you were interested in a boy that never gave you the time of day, having someone else validate your appearance was definitely welcoming. Up until now, Ino had never bothered to do anything about it. She didn't particularly like Naruto if she was honest with herself after the way he said those mean things to Choji. After having realized that it was just to get him out of his shell and to take fighting seriously, Ino had decided to give him a second chance, not that Naruto knew of this of course. With her teammate having saved her like a knight in shining armor rescuing the damsel in distress, Ino thought that she should make up for lost ground and introduce Naruto to her wonderful personality. Naruto, for his part, went rigid very quickly. Up until this point in his life, he had never really dealt with the opposite sex in a way that was anything other than platonic. The sexual undertones of what he had just heard were a completely different kettle of fish as far as the genin was concerned. Naruto immediately let go of the girl in his arms who gracefully stood beside her savior. Seeing the positive reaction that she had gotten from that simple comment, Ino wondered just how far she could take this. A smirk appeared on the Yamanaka's face. "Thank you for saving me, Naruto-kun." As Ino finished saying this, she gave Naruto a slightly longer than normal kiss on the cheek just to see what reaction he would give. A definite blush appeared on the face of Naruto as he didn't know what to do. Ino giggled at the reaction that Naruto gave, as did Asuma before the Jonin spoke up. "Ino, I think you have tormented Naruto enough today, so how about you go and wake Choji up?" Asuma stated, to which the blonde-haired girl nodded and skipped over to where her downed comrade was. She felt bad for how she should have gone to the aid of Choji the second that the fight was over, but this new game that she had of teasing Naruto was something that was just too much damn fun. "I'm very proud of the way how you three handled yourself on that mission. They weren't just freshly minted chunin. From what I saw, they were bordering on special jonin. You guys handled yourself really well," Asuma stated, to which two of his students smiled at the praise. Naruto wasn't one of them. "Yeah, but we got utterly trounced. The only reason why we stayed in that fight was because they weren't taking us seriously. The only reason we are alive is because they got too cocky," Naruto said with anger. He hated the feeling of being inadequate. He wanted to be a somebody rather than a nobody. Asuma frowned. "Naruto, you're only a genin. You can't expect to be fighting up against people like that when you are only 13. Those chunin you three were fighting were at least 20 years old, so they had a lot more time to get stronger than you, but just between us four, I think that you guys will be jonin before you hit 20. Hearing that calmed Naruto somewhat. "Look, Naruto, the chunin exams are coming up in a month's time. When we get back to Konoha, we will have another boot camp and I will sign you 3 guys up to participate in them. How does that sound? That way you can see just how good you really are against people in your own age group. I know for certain that guy is enrolling his team, so you get to go up against Tenten, Lee and Niji," Asuma offered, to which Naruto grinned. He hadn't seen those two since the academy. He knew that they were definitely both going to be formidable opponents, but he was confident that he could defeat them. "Really? We get to go into the chunin exams?" Ino excitedly questioned, to which Asuma nodded. "Yay! Isn't that great, Choji-kun?" There was silence a bit before some mumbling. "You weren't the one that got knocked out in the last fight. Those guys were really strong." Confidence was always an issue for the Akimichi clan heir. Ino was appalled by this apparent lack of confidence. "Come on, Choji. Those guys, as Asuma-sensei stated, were special jonin. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't imagine many other of the people we graduated with would even have the balls to go up against that. After that, fighting other genin would be a piece of cake. Come on, Choji, you're really strong." There was a shy smile on the face of Choji. "Thanks for that, Ino-chan, this means a lot." "Hey, that's what friends are for, am I right or what?" Ino replied back with a big grin on her face as she gave a one-armed hug to her longest friend. One party couldn't but watch this interaction and feel jealous. He knew that they weren't doing anything intentionally to annoy him, but when you grew up as an orphan with nothing but the clothes covering your skin, Naruto wanted that almost familial sense that his two teammates shared with one another. "Come on, kids, let's head back home," Asuma said, and the group picked up their weapons and headed back to the village hidden in the leaf. "What? You were on an A-ranked mission as a genin and Choji was knocked out? Wait until I get my hands on that, Asuma," Choji's mother shouted out after she had just heard some information from Ino. "Mom, it wasn't like that. We were on a mission to protect this guy's livestock of sheep before it went to auction. One of his competitors who was really rich hired some people to take out all of his stock so that he would be forced out of business. Asuma-sensei deal with his opponent the Jonin and then helped us," Choji stated in an attempt to stop his mother from poisoning his food when the man next came over. He liked Asuma-sensei. "Still, you said that Asuma thought that they were chunin bordering on special jonin. How did you manage to survive that? Not that I don't think you two are good, but that is a different level." The normally calm and reserved woman that was Ino's mother questioned. When it was her daughter's safety in question, all sense of poshness went out the window. "Well, our new teammate Naruto-san is very good. He's better than me and Choji, but that's because he graduated last year and has an extra year on us," Ino quickly stated. "A little too quickly." "Oh, is that the new person who you thought was cute?" A probing question was directed towards Ino, who blushed in embarrassment. This was news to both Choji and his mother. Obviously, there was something that hadn't been shared between the two mothers. Scandalized, Ino responded. "I did not say that, Mum. All I said was that he wasn't unattractive." "I mean, where do you get these weird crackpot theories?" the Yamanaka girl questioned as she pushed some of her hair behind her head. As this was happening, Choji was looking at the girl with an amused expression on his face. "Hey Ino, why haven't you told them about he was your knight in shining armor and took a kunai which was aimed directly at your face?" the Akimichi attempted to question with his best attempt of an innocent expression on display. The blush that was on the face of Ino only intensified as she heard this. "I am so going to kill you after this," the girl mumbled under her breath. Choji merely chuckled. He knew that he was never going to hear the end of this, but it didn't matter as far as he was concerned. He was definitely going to enjoy this. "But that coming from you must mean something after all. You never say anything remotely positive about any boy's appearance other than that Sasuke kid." "Well, I guess we shall invite him over to have dinner with us. I want to see the boy who is going on missions with my son. You two and Inoichi are more than welcome to come over, as well as I am sure you willing to meet Ino's new crush." The smirk that was on the face couldn't be removed. Whilst the trio of the Ino Shikacho was famous as they had spent a long time together, the wives of the each respective male had spent a significant time together as well. It was so much so that the children felt comfortable calling their friends mom and dad, aunt and uncle. This was why Choji's mother was just as interested in finding out about her goddaughter's potential boyfriend as the girl's mother was. For the first time in a long time, Ino was scared for a situation that had nothing to do with Shinobi. As his two teammates were celebrating the fact that they were alive with their teammates, Naruto was not. Instead, he was at the training ground refining his skills to become a better shinobi. The last mission that he had been on was a real eye-opener for Naruto. It was the first ever mission that he had been completely outskilled. Every other mission he had been on was one that went according to plan in terms of the mission rank. Most of his missions had been up against bandits where he had the upper hand. That feeling of helplessness he felt in knowing that his friend was knocked out, and there was nothing that he could do. The only reason why they were alive was because the enemy didn't take them seriously. Naruto knew that one day, there would be someone that wouldn't care if he was a genin or not. They would simply just kill him. That was not an option for Naruto, as he didn't plan on dying anytime soon. There were still so many things that he planned on doing before that happened. In no particular order of completion, Naruto wanted to find out who his parents were, start a family, become someone famous, make some good friends, and become a damn strong shinobi. Ever since Naruto had realized just how much of a difference there was between himself and the Chunin, Naruto assumed that there was just as much difference between those Chunin and Asuma-sensei. To go one step further, Naruto assumed the gulf in class between the Sandaime and Asuma was even greater. He wanted to be at that level, the top of the food chain. The only people that Naruto had ever heard of who ever got that sort of skill bracket were the genius kids who came from privileged backgrounds. He wanted to prove to the world that you didn't need to be some kind of spoiled piece of shit to be able to be a mad cunt. There was a small amount of irony in that his two teammates were the definition of what he didn't like. Unfortunately for Naruto, he was at a bit of a snag in terms of his progression as a shinobi. He had learned all of the C-ranked fire ninjutsus at the library, learned the basic elemental manipulation training, and his taijutsu was something that was very hard to learn since he essentially had to create his own fighting style, which was no easy feat. Because Naruto had a bloodline limit that no one else in Konoha knew anything about or had any scrolls on, it made the progression damn fun. This forced the blonde-haired boy to create every single jutsu his bloodline could be used for. Unfortunately for Naruto, he was not the genius type of shinobi. He was the brute force type where he would pour tons of effort to learn something that he couldn't get fairly regularly. He wasn't all that smart. He was just very hardworking, and that meant he found it hard to create ideas on what to use his bloodline for outside of just regular taijutsu and firing off his finger bullets. Sure, he definitely wasn't against the fact that he had, but in comparison to what some other bloodlines like say the Sharingan did, it was a bit lackluster, Naruto thought. The trio of shinobi were standing in front of the gates to a place that they never thought that they would return to. For Naruto, he hadn't been to the place in just under a year and a half. For the other two, it was slightly more recent. "So, who do you think are the people that we should be watching out for in these exams?" Naruto questioned to his two teammates. Ino was busy filing her nails in an attempt to not give off how anxious/nervous she was about these exams. "Well, I heard from Sakura that there is some team from Suna which are really strong. Apparently they only backed off when Sasuke-kun showed up to save the day," Ino said with a grin on her face. What Ino wasn't saying was that she had also attempted to pair up the differences between herself and Sakura. Unfortunately for the blonde-haired girl, her former friend didn't see it that way and still saw it as some form of trap to get Sasuke for herself. Ino decided that she wasn't going to ruin a friendship for a boy, but as she looked back on the situation, it had been a very long time since Sakura and herself could call one another friends. The blonde made the executive call that if Sakura wanted to repair the friendship, the ownership was on her. Alright, so be careful of those guys. To be fair though, from what you've described, the only real person of worth on that team is the Uchiha, and that's just because Ino rides his willy all the time. Choji chuckled at Naruto's comment. Ino didn't appreciate anywhere near as much as she was not like Sakura at all. She had some pride. "I bet you would prefer it if I was riding someone else's willy, don't you, Naruto-kun?" the Yamanaka girl stated with a suggestive tone of voice as she gave Naruto a hug from behind. Naruto went ramrod still. He didn't know how to react, but if they were gauging it based on Naruto's bodily reactions, but he thought that he would fail judging by the rush of blood downwards. As this was happening, Choji watched on with wide eyes. He didn't have the stones to speak up at this moment. "Yeah, that's what I thought, Naruto, so shut up," Ino stated as she got off Naruto and flicked her bang of hair as she straightened her posture. What was screw it. Women are crazy. Naruto mumbled as he tried to comprehend what had just happened. Choji nodded in agreement with what Naruto had to say regarding the matter. The trio of Chunin hopefuls headed into the academy, and they noticed a large group of shinobi who were standing around a door. Now Naruto might not have been the best when it came to genjutsu, but he was pretty decent at detecting them. Naruto looked to confirmation from the resident genjutsu practitioner for her approval. She nodded. "They must be trying to weed out all of the really bad people," Chuji whispered, to which Naruto and Ino both nodded. "Yeah, let's go stand in the background and watch to see what happens," Ino stated as if her word was law. Naruto didn't agree with this opinion, but since they went by a majority rules vote, he had to abide by it as Choji agreed with Ino. Naruto wanted to walk in and start taking names as he wanted to make a name for himself. It was then that Naruto saw Lee, who was trying to convince the two guards that he was very weak. Naruto didn't buy it for a second. From what he had heard, Lee had managed to get a sensei who was just as strong as Kakashi, but he was taijutsu focused. Considering the only thing that Lee could use was taijutsu, that was a match made in heaven as far as he was concerned. That, coupled with Lee's insane work ethic, made Naruto think that this act was completely full of shit. Still, Naruto was curious to see as to how it would turn out before he made any judgment calls. The blonde-haired boy didn't have to wait much longer, as in came he that he couldn't stop hearing about from Ino. It was Team 7. The only one in the group that looked like a proper ninja was the Uchiha, and even that was a stretch as far as he was concerned. The girl that was apparently Ino's rival looked pathetic. She looked so weak that he was surprised she passed the academy. Really, this is what Ino compares herself to. She's much better than this pink-haired girl, and why in the blue hell does that Rudy Poo wear such a long scarf? That is surely going to get him killed one day, Naruto thought to himself, as he noticed who must have been the Sandame's grandson. When Naruto found out that the boy was the nephew of Asuma, Naruto decided that he wanted to find out more about the boy and to see where he stacked up against the genin. Konohamaru was someone who had special private tutoring from a young age, whereas Naruto had nothing. He had to earn everything bit of progress that he had made. He wanted to see just how much of a difference having a privileged upbringing did in terms of your shinobi career. "Ya called it," Naruto thought to himself as he watched Rock Lee move at a speed that he could just about keep up with. Naruto watched in amusement at the look of shock on both of the people attempting to hurt one another about the sudden inclusion of Lee. It was here where Naruto decided to step in. He had had far too much of sitting on the sidelines as far as he was concerned. Plus, he hadn't seen these people in a long time and he wanted to see them. "You know, Niji, I thought that they taught you better at the academy. That's the Uchiha fan on the back of his shirt, so he must Sasuke Uchiha," Naruto said loud enough that the attention was drawn to him as he entered the conversation. Everyone turned around and noticed the blonde-haired boy. "Naruto, it's good to see you again. I thought that you stuck without a sensei and a team. How were you allowed to enter?" Sure, he may have been right, but Niji had a way with words that only socially inept people could match. "Niji, that's uncalled for, you piece of shit. I figured out that faggot's test right from the start, but my so-called teammates failed, so I had to become a genin without a sensei and wait for a free spot to open up," Naruto said with an annoyed expression on his face. His graduation wasn't his fault. "Then I am sure that you would like to know just who this team's sensei is then, Naruto. Their sensei is Kakashi Hatake." Naruto's attention rocketed from the three genin that made up Team 7 and directed it straight at Niji with a glare on his face. "What did you say? As if their sensei is Kakashi team. As if these three are his students, they all look like shit. I don't believe you. There was the slightest of smirks on the face of Niji before he turned to Team 7. They're here now, why don't you ask them yourself, Naruto? Konohamaru, not realizing what this guy was so angry about but taking offense to the fact that this guy called him shit, spoke up. Yeah, Kakashi is our sensei. You couldn't even pass Kakashi-sensei's test. Look who the loser is now, huh? Naruto gave the kid a year younger than himself a very pointed glare. You're very lucky that I don't want to disrupt my chances of becoming a Chunin, or you would be on the ground as a broken pile of bones. Hey! Watch who you're talking to. Don't you know that he's the grandson of the Sandaime Hokage? Sakura shouted out in return as she didn't like anyone insulting her teammates unless that person was herself. Naruto looked at the girl from head to toe in the most blatantly obvious way. He didn't care if she noticed. Sakura for her part felt uncomfortable with the way that this person who hadn't even introduced themselves was looking at her. You're the trashiest of your whole team. You wouldn't even be able to help your teammates if I decided to fight them. Hey! Konohamaru shouted as he pointed his finger right in the face of Naruto. I dare you one more time to say that to her and I will punch your lights out. PFFTT, I don't need to do that. The only person from your team that I was interested in seeing how good they were has just gone and decided to fight Lee. It should be interesting to see how much time it takes Lee to defeat Sasuke. Naruto stated before using the Shunshin to where he had seen Sasuke and Lee walk. This left Sasuke's two teammates rapidly chasing after Sasuke to see what all the commotion was about. They arrived in time to see Sasuke with his Sharingan activated getting launched into the air with a right-footed super kick straight to the face. Lee followed this up by undoing the bandages around his wrists, and jumped into the air chasing after his opponent. That was until something pinned one of the bandages to one of the walls of the building. What the hell was that? I didn't even see it. Naruto thought to himself, but the scary thing for him was the fact that apparently Lee did, which meant that the boy was obviously hiding his skills. Naruto was content with what he had seen beforehand as he knew that he could keep up with that speed, but if Lee was hiding even more speed, then Naruto knew that Lee was going to be a real tough opponent. Now Naruto knew that the shinobi world was home to some unique characters, him with his bloodline being one of them, but he didn't expect to see a talking turtle. It was a surprise, but then Naruto eventually realized that it was a summon animal. That made it seem nowhere as special. Naruto was the only one who figured this out, as the Sandaime's spoiled brat had not. He thought that the turtle was the team sensei. Wow, this guy. Naruto didn't know where this guy got his fashion sense from, but it was definitely unique, that's for sure. After a sight that Naruto would never wish on his worst enemy, Guy brought his attention to the three genin down on the floor. Hey, how's Kakashi doing? The trio looked at each other for a second. Wait, how do you know Kakashi-sensei? Sakura questioned, to which Guy smirked, and then with a display of speed which shocked not only Team 7 but also Naruto, who was watching on in attendance. Some people call us eternal rivals, but I'm winning 50-49. I'm stronger than Kakashi. Now go along, the Chunin exams are about to start soon and I don't want any Konoha genin missing the chance. Guy said, to which he left the second he heard the order. When he jumped up to the stands, he noticed a familiar person which brought a smile to his face. Naruto-kun, it is so good to see you again. If you're here for the Chunin exams, then I can't wait to test my youthful abilities against you as well as Niji-kun. Naruto grinned. Despite his eccentric displays on occasion, Lee was a very nice person and a friend for Naruto. Well, I want to take out Niji almost as much as you do, so if the two of us meet in the finals before you meet Niji, then I can't make any promises. Naruto grinned, to which Lee nodded. He wouldn't have it any other way. Oh, and also Lee, if the two of us fight, don't hold back against me like what you did with Sasuke down there. I'd be very insulted. Naruto purposefully said this loud enough so that the three that made up Team 7 easily heard him. There was a small amount of satisfaction when he noticed how each of the shinobi down below besides Guy had their eyes widen. Now, let's go meet up with our teams, Naruto stated, to which Lee nodded with a grin on his face. With Naruto being here, these exams just became that much more interesting. So that's the kid that Asuma has been raving about. It's a shame I didn't get to see how skilled he is. I wonder if he can back up all the talking that Asuma did for him. Yash! I just had the pleasure of watching two youthful genin spar just then, Guy stated as he entered the room. When they saw the grin on his face, they knew that whoever the other person was that was sparring lost to one of his students. They could also tell that whoever had lost was potentially one of their students. Alright, come on Guy, spit it out. Who was it that was fighting? Asuma was the first to cave in and ask the question. Although a fair few of the jonin in the room were attempting to appear as if they were not paying attention, but everyone was. They wanted to have an ego boost of hearing that their teaching methods were better than the other jonins. It was bragging rights. My Rock Lee has defeated Kakashi's Sasuke Uchiha. Guy boldly proclaimed to knowing just what kind of reaction this would create. Murmurs started appearing everywhere as they thought that the Uchiha was going to be one of the favorites for the whole title. To hear that someone like Sasuke had lost to the dead last of the year above said a lot without many words being spoken. Kakashi attempted to be as nonchalant as possible, but there was a slight twitch in the single visible eyebrow that Guy gained great enjoyment from. That's nice and all, Guy, but that doesn't really mean much. What happens before the exams doesn't matter. All that really matters is how much money you guys are going to be paying me when my team destroys everyone, Asuma said with a cocky grin on his face. He knew that this was a bold claim to make, but he was confident that his team could win him some money. What do you mean, Asuma? You had a massive fangirl. A boy doesn't have the confidence to fight properly, and not to mention someone who couldn't even pass the Genin team exams on their first go. She didn't mean to be rude to her longtime friend, but Kurenai was just stating facts. She thought that Asuma's team was the weakest out of the rookie teams. Asuma noticed that one particular Jonin shinobi was paying keen attention to what he had to say. So obviously there is more to the story. That's good. I didn't think he would do it because Naruto was a bad shinobi, Asuma thought as he liked to give Kakashi the benefit of the doubt. Just you wait, Kurenai-chan. You better have Tsunade here for the exams because any genin who is dumb enough to fight Naruto in a taijutsu battle will die. Once again, that was a very bold claim to make from the Sarutobi, but he knew a lot about Naruto that they didn't know. A small smile appeared underneath the mask of Kakashi. He was happy that someone was saying that about Naruto. It meant the boy was very strong, far stronger than what he would have been with himself. Everyone took note of a statement like that, especially Guy. He wanted to find out what was so darn special about that kid that Lee was talking to. From what he saw, the kid didn't look like anything special. He had a fair bit of muscle, but not as much as Lee. The Chunin exams just got that more interesting. A grin appeared on the face of the green beast. So who's willing to put their money where their mouth is? Asuma spoke loudly, to which multiple Jonin started walking towards him. Come on, Naruto, you better not screw this up or I'm going to look like the biggest laughing stock. Naruto quickly caught back up with his team, who were already in the room waiting for the exam to start. Where the hell were you just then? Ino harshly whispered to the boy. Now that she had the confidence in herself that she could complete this exam, Ino did not want anyone ruining her chances, especially her teammates. Don't worry, Ino, Naruto stated as he brushed off her annoyance and a hint of concern. I was just watching that wannabe boyfriend of yours fight up against the green spandex-wearing guy, Naruto stated, to which he pointed towards Lee. The gossip Munder came back to the forefront as Ino wanted all of the information. Well, don't just stop there, you better tell me how the fight went, the platinum blonde-haired girl demanded with her hands on her hips. Naruto chuckled at how quickly she could change her mind on things. He was definitely going to take great pleasure in telling Ino of this. Sasuke got utterly trounced by Lee and it was glorious to watch. You know, I have no idea what you see in that Uchiha. I mean, it definitely can't be for his fighting skills. What? Oh well, that's disappointing. I thought Sasuke-kun would have improved as much as I have over these past 6 months. Ino lamented. She didn't think it was possible, but part of her crush on the boy was going away as she heard this. Part of the reason as to why he had been such a mystery back in the academy days was because he was untouchable. There was no one in the year that could come even close to matching Sasuke. To hear that the worst person from the year above utterly dominated Sasuke made Ino consider how good was Sasuke, really? She was confident that Naruto was better than the dead last of his year, and what did that say about the rookie of the year of that class? Just how good was he? The doubts that Ino had gotten rid of quickly came back to the surface. Naruto noticed this and quickly attempted to nip it in the bud. Hey Ino, Choji could have defeated him and so could have you if it was in the field rather than just an empty square room. Trust me, you guys have nothing to worry about. Ino shot Naruto a look of gratitude as she heard his words of reassurance. With that said and their confidence restored, Naruto turned his attention back to the room. He wanted to find the Suna team, who were supposed to be very good, and make a note of them. It was at this point that the Loud Trio rocked up to the show. They were soon joined by the other rookie team, and it was at this point where Ino decided that she wanted to go and mingle with her other classmates. Hey guys, how's it going? The blonde questioned with a big grin on her face. Sasuke was admittedly surprised at this action by Ino, as he half expected her to go over and hug him to death. This was definitely a surprise. Sakura saw the way that Ino was acting and thought that it was her plan to look like she didn't want Sasuke anymore so that Sasuke would be confused. Well, two can play that game. It's you! Konohamaru shouted as he pointed his finger right at Naruto. What are you doing here? Where is Shikamaru anyway? I bet that lazy ass thought that this would be too troublesome, didn't he? Haha. Konohamaru laughed but then went silent. Everyone other than Team 7 turned away and attempted to make themselves look invisible. Sakura for her part looked scandalized that her teammate could say something so insensitive. Now, normally, Naruto would have spoken up here, but he knew that this wasn't his place. Judging by the way that Chuji was looking at Konohamaru, he knew that his friend wasn't going to be on speaking terms with the Gaki for a long time. Wow, you're the most pathetic person I could ever think of. I didn't think that even you could stoop this low, but I guess I was proven wrong, you scum. Ino hatefully stated as she stared directly into the eyes of Konohamaru. Said brown-haired boy flinched with the intensity that he was being stared at by Ino. What? What do you mean? What did I do wrong? Konohamaru, confused as ever, questioned out loud. Thankfully for Ino's sake, Sakura took over the conversation because she didn't know if tears would fall if those words had to come from her mouth. Shikamaru died on a mission. That's why that guy is on Ino's team. He's Shikamaru's replacement. Sakura whispered harshly into the ear of Konohamaru. She noticed the honorable grandson's eyes widened as he realized the severity of the situation at hand. Oh, I am so sorry, Ino and Chuji. I didn't know. Konohamaru regretfully stated with a slight bow. It's alright, but maybe next time actually think before you open that giant mouth of yours and spew out shit. Ino replied back. She knew that Konohamaru wasn't really a bad person, he was just inept most of the time. There were a few social cues that he still had to learn. Before the trio of rookie teams including Naruto were able to start a dick measuring contest of who was going to be the best, one genin who was not a part of the group came and entered himself in the conversation. You know, you rookies should stop talking so loudly. All you're doing is painting a target on your backs. A silver-haired man with glasses stated. And who are you? Sasuke abrasively questioned to the man who he did not know. There was a slight bit of shock on the face of bespectacled man, but it was quickly regained. My name is Kabuto Yakushi, and this is my 7th time at the Chunin exams. I always heard these exams were tough. Chuji mumbled under his breath. He wanted to hear what this veteran had to say. Naruto was thinking along different lines. Why did this guy come up to all of the rookies and state that this was his 7th time? What his plan here? Whilst he wasn't tactically smart as say Ino due to her lessons with Shikaku, he was still pretty smart. The area that Naruto liked to think that he exceeded in was street smarts. He couldn't think of a logical reason for this guy to come up to them. There was something fishy about him. Really, then if this is your 7th time, you must know a lot about these exams then. Sakura commented with the hope of finding out more information about what she had gotten herself into. Kabuto merely grinned. Why yes I do. It was at this point that Kabuto pulled out a deck of cards. These ninja cards right here tell me a lot of information on how strong everyone is so I know who to avoid. Since you guys are rookies and all, I don't mind giving out information to help you out. Are there some names of people you want to find out more about? Sasuke was the first to speak up. He spoke with certainty in his voice. Gaara Sabaku and Rock Lee. Not to be outdone, Konohamaru Sarutobi quickly joined the fray. That blonde-haired guy right there. The Sarutobi stated as he pointed his finger at Naruto. Just because he had heard of Shikamaru's death, it didn't mean that he was going to not take freebies when they were on offer. He didn't like the guy and he wanted to find out what his skills were so he could smash his face in. Everyone looked at Konohamaru with a bit of a sneer as it was a bad thing to do in front of said person. He didn't care though. They weren't going to help him on his quest to become the Godame Hokage. Okay then, well for Sasuke that's easy because he knows their names. Here we go, Rock Lee. It says here that he is weak in ninjutsu and genjutsu but he is extremely strong in taijutsu. He has been on 10 C-rank missions. Now for Gaara, since he is someone who is from a different village, I have less information on him. I don't know anything about his abilities but he has been on 14 C-ranked and 1 B-ranked mission. Here's the kicker though, he has never been injured once on any missions. Everyone took notice of this when Kabuto said this. Naruto looked at Gaara in a new light. He knew that if he wanted to become the best then Gaara was the person that he was going to defeat. The only 2 other people beside himself that he thought could handle something like that were Niji and Rock Lee. Now for you Konohamaru. Since he is a Konoha shinobi, that will make it a lot easier. He is teammates with the Yamanaka and the Akimichi. Here we go. Naruto Uzumaki. It says here that he is proficient in both ninjutsu and taijutsu whilst satisfactory in genjutsu. His sensei is Asuma Sarutobi and get this, he has been on 7 C-rank missions and 1 A-ranked mission. He has never failed a mission with a success rating of 100%. Even Kabuto was surprised at the fact that this kid here had done an A-ranked mission. Maybe he should inform Orochimaru about this kid as he could potentially be a good host, well beneath Sasuke-kun of course. Everyone that was in hearing range apart from Ino and Chuji turned around to stare at Naruto. The blonde-haired boy merely smirked when he heard this. He saw the fear and unintentionally let out a bit of killing intent even though he didn't know how to use it properly. Behind that smirk though. Thank fuck that didn't state that I have the dead bone pulse. What I want to know is how the hell did this guy get all that information on me and Lee? Something is definitely fishy about him. At least my bloodline hasn't been officially documented down as me having it, and has only been passed around with word of mouth to a select few. I'm pretty confident that not even the Hokage knows about it. See that village over there, Sound Shinobi, though? They're a new village, so not much is known about them, but I can't imagine them being that strong, Kabuto stated as he moved the glasses on the rim of his nose. With what happened next, Naruto felt somewhat bad about himself. He watched as the Sound Genin used some sort of jutsu that made Kabuto bend over and vomit whilst cracking his glasses. Now Naruto knew that the part of the body that controlled balance was your ears. That in combination with the glasses and the name of the village meant that Naruto had quickly figured out how this guy's technique worked. All of you kids shut the hell up unless you want to get disqualified. Now that I have all of your attention, my name is Ibiki Marino and I am the examiner for the first exams. Here's a good opportunity. After that display from the Sound Village, there will be no fighting without the permission of the examiner. Even if permission is granted, killing your opponent will not be tolerated. Pigs that disobey this order will be disqualified. Do I make myself clear? Ibiki loudly shouted, to which a lot of the genin merely gulped and nodded as they feared the scar-faced man. Naruto, on the other hand, well, he didn't. His last mission was a fight to the death that he only barely made it out alive. He wasn't scared of some guy who as now could only talk the talk. When he started walking the walk, that's when it would get interesting as far as the blonde-haired boy was concerned. Now, we will start the first exam. When Naruto found out that it was a written exam, he wasn't too pleased with this. He had put a lot of effort into his studies, but that hadn't really gotten him that far. He could only hope, as he didn't know how this would end up. It was then that Naruto face planted into the table. A few people chuckled, but Naruto smirked when he got his head back up and immediately wrote down the answers to the test. It was after that that a look of confusion appeared on the face of Naruto as he looked down at his paper, and to his surprise, all of the answers had been filled out. He wasn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth. "Ino, you mad bitch, thank you." Naruto cheered internally as he realized what had just happened. All of the worries that he had for the exam instantly vanished right in that second, because he knew that if there was ever a point that he didn't know what to do, Naruto would have the full support of his teammates, and vice versa. They would pull through this together. Then Naruto had to listen to a rather impressive little speech from Konohamaru, even if he thought that it was unnecessary. Didn't the guy realize that the whole point of the first exam was to weed out all of those who weren't capable, and he just made those kids set up for a rough time in whatever the second exam was? The second that they got the words of encouragement from that Ibiki guy, a massive gust of wind appeared besides the man. Once the clutter all died down, a woman appeared in the middle of a banner. Naruto had to admit that looking at her objectively now that he was entering puberty, this girl was pretty hot. Just from looking at her he got the vibe that she was batshit crazy. Never stick your dick in crazy. There was a bit of banter between the two proctors before she led the Chunin hopefuls out to a rather hallowing location. There was one statement that scared Choji a little though. "She's going to cut us in half." "Welcome to the stage of the second test, Training Ground 44, or otherwise known as the Forest of Death," Enko stated with a sinister grin on her face as she could only anticipate their reactions. "Yes, so stay the fuck away from that Kusa shinobi. I'm getting a bad feeling about him," Naruto thought to himself as he watched Konohamaru once again shoot himself in the foot. For that genin to be able to sneak up on a jonin was not something that was commonplace. Who knew what other skills they had up their sleeves? Naruto wasn't even sure if that person was a man or a woman. Naruto's attention was broken when the proctor decided to speak up. "Now, before we start the second test, there is something that I need to hand out to you guys," Enko stated as she was holding on to some forms in her right hand. "To be able to compete in these exams, you will need to fill out these forms. There will be deaths in the upcoming exams, so you will have to sign this form saying that myself and Konoha bear no responsibility for what happens in the forest." The frightening thing was the smile in which the lady said this with. "I'm going to explain the second test, and then you can sign the form afterwards. Then each team will check in that booth behind me." When she got a few high and a couple of nods, Enko took that as the sign to continue speaking. "Simply put, you will attempt to the ultimate survival. There are 2 scrolls, a heaven scroll and an earth scroll. To pass the exam you will need to get to the tower in the middle of the forest with a heaven scroll and an earth scroll. Whatever happens in the forest, stays in the forest. There are a few catches though. You will be disqualified if you show up to the tower with only 2 genin. You need to complete this as a full squad of 3 genin. There is also a time limit. The second test will last 120 hours, exactly 5 days. Finally, you must not look inside the scrolls that you find. If you do that, there will be a surprise that is even worse than disqualification. The smirk on the face of the woman dared anyone to test this out. What about dinner? Choji's outburst was heard by everyone, and they chuckled, and some even called him fat. Naruto made a mental note of where they came from because he didn't want anyone to insult his friends. I'm sure you can find enough food in the forest through all the poisonous animals, Enko stated, although she didn't really look as if she cared about the fact there may be a shortage of food. Now that's enough explanations. Exchange the 3 forms for your scroll, then choose a gate to get ready at and wait for the start of the second exam, kiddies. Enko grinned. Choji picked up the Earth Scroll for the team and they waited until they were at Gate 13 before they talked about strategy. Whilst Naruto was the designated leader since he had the most experience, and also the fact that he was the strongest ninja out of the 3 of them, Ino was the strategist of the team. She was the long-range fighter who was able to survey the fight whilst Naruto and Choji got into the thick of it. The major difference that Choji noted between Ino and Shikamaru was the fact that Ino was proactive whereas his friend was very reactive. He noted that Naruto was in a very similar opinion as Ino, and would like to take control of the situation rather than let it develop and himself, while he was happy to do whatever his team wanted of him. Alright, so here's the plan. Since I don't plan on spending any time in here more than what I have to, we are going to search for a team, take their scroll and then head straight for the tower. Ino stated, to which none of her teammates had a problem with that. Oh, and when we see some people, I want to fight them first. I haven't been able to use my dead bone pulse in a proper fight, so I want to see how well it works. Both Choji and Ino nodded. It was better for Naruto to sort these kinks out now rather than later. Also, it wasn't as if they were not going to do anything at all. They were going to be right behind him if he ever needed help. Also, Choji, can you hand me that scroll? I'm probably the best one to carry it. All 3 of them knew that Naruto was the strongest out of the group, so it only made sense for him to hold the key to their success. The trio of Konoha shinobi raced out of the gates the second that they opened and headed northeast. Naruto had spotted that the team from Gate 14 was one he thought that were ripe for the taking. During the first exam, the blonde genin noticed that one of the members of that team was halfway in the process of putting their hand up before Konohamaru had started his speech. Anyone who was like that was not ready for the exams, and that was something that Naruto definitely planned to take advantage of. Guys, I think that they are this way. I don't know how, but I just have this feeling, Ino stated as she veered off in a different direction. Naruto and Chuji didn't question the girl, as they knew that gut instinct was one of the most important things that they could rely on. She was indeed right. They spotted a team of genins sporting the logo of Sunagakure. Naruto didn't waste any time as he leapt from his vantage point in the trees towards the Sunagakure ninjas down below. He didn't waste any time giving the Suna shinobi any extra time to defend themselves. Just because there was a treaty with the village, this didn't stop Naruto from going all out. He had a mission to complete and a promotion to earn, and no one was going to stop that from happening. The blonde jumped from the tree, and it was only at the last second that one of the genin noticed Naruto, but it was too late. Naruto had a blade form in the palm of his hand as he slammed that into the base of his enemy's skull. Naruto didn't stop there though, as he got in another kill before they noticed. When they did, the final remaining shinobi jumped back and prepared to bring out his fan. Naruto didn't let up the pressure though, as he fired off some finger bullets which pierced the boy's body in multiple locations. Bodies hit the ground, but Naruto didn't take this as a sign to ease up. The final genin's body bounced slightly as it hit the ground, and as it came back up, Naruto pierced the heart with a bone extending from the palm of his hand. It was no doubt gruesome, but that came with the territory. Ever since Naruto had received the gift of the dead bone pulse, he knew that he would have to come to terms with the fact that he was going to be seeing a lot of blood and death. His bloodline was perfect for killing people, and since it was up close, he got to see all the nitty-gritty gory details. Thankfully for Naruto, his first kill wasn't made with the use of his Kekai Genkai. He made it with a kunai being thrown when he was filling in for a genin on another team. The blonde didn't know what it would be like if he had to make his first kill by shoving one of his own bones through someone's heart. Ino and Choji popped down right that second and start pilfering the bodies. As luck would have it, Ino managed to find the heaven scroll that they were looking for. Sweet, now let's head for the tower in the middle. If possible, we won't have to spend a night here in this decrepit forest. Ino cheered with jubilation. Hey, I bet since we got our second scroll so quick, if we make it to the tower as quickly as possible, then there must be some kind of record that we can make our own. Ino grinned. Seeing her name up in lights was definitely something that she wasn't adverse to. Chuji didn't care much about this, but he definitely wanted the comfort of a bed to sleep on, so he was all for moving as quickly as possible. Now let's hurry, Naruto commanded, to which the other two nodded. It was getting darker with the sun almost having set that Naruto pulled a bone out of his arm and lit the tip of fire with some elemental manipulation. Naruto passed it to Choji, who was at the front of their three-man formation. He was so thankful that they knew water walking as it cut their time drastically. When they got to the tower, Choji was the one who spotted the entrance, and they all went inside. Naruto briefly wondered whether or not it was the smell of food that led Choji to the entrance. "Well, we made it here with both scrolls, so I think that now we can open them," Naruto commented, to which the other two nodded. When Naruto channeled some chakra into the scrolls, smoke enveloped the room and a man with glasses appeared. "WWW what? But it has only been 1 hour and 23 minutes. That shatters the previous record," Ebisu staggered to say before he passed out in shock. "Well, I guess we did it, guys. We're the best genin team ever." Naruto smirked whilst he said this, much the same as Ino, whilst Choji merely grinned. Naruto was right, they were a good team. Whilst the rest of the people were spending their time fighting the wilderness to hopefully get a scroll, Team 10 was quite happily relaxing. Naruto had even spent the first 2 days of his time in the tower training in preparation of what was to come. As far as he was concerned, this was all too easy, and there had to be something more coming up soon. He wanted to get in that little bit extra training just in case he was ready for whatever they were going to throw at him. "Can all of the genin who have passed the second test make it to the main hall along with their senseis?" a man stated over the Tannoy system, to which Team 10 all looked at one another with a grin on their face. "First off, I would like to congratulate everyone on passing the second exam," the Hokage stated with a smile on his face. "It seems as if your team got lucky, Kakashi, but as long as my team is around, getting any further is not going to be possible, since from now on it is all about individual ability. With youth there are the sweet times and there are the savory times," Kakashi guy said with an annoying smirk on his face. He was always the type of person who was always willing to bet. Kakashi was Kakashi, and thus Guy was in a slump with a cloud hanging over his head. "For the upcoming test, there is something that I would like for you to know." It was at this point that Naruto, if he was honest with himself, he tuned out most of what the Sandaime Hokage had to say. In the end, the only part that he really cared about was the fact that they were going to have some preliminary exams beforehand, which were going to be one-on-one shinobi fights in the pit that they were standing in. This was something that Naruto was more than happy with, as it meant that he would hopefully get some competition in this exam that was up to scratch. It was then that the first fight of the preliminary rounds was up. It was Sasuke Uchiha against Akito Yoroi. Had Naruto not seen the Uchiha fight beforehand, he would have thought that this would be a good marker for the supposed golden child of society and Ino's love interest. He had though, and that meant that he knew how weak the Uchiha really was and couldn't comprehend why Ino was attracted to someone so antisocial and weak. There was no envy whatsoever, well, maybe a bit actually. From what he saw though, looking down at the genin, Sasuke looked really worse for wear. He had no idea what had happened to him during his time spent in the forest, but from the looks of Konohamaru and Sakura, it wasn't anything good. The only noteworthy thing about the fight was that apparently, Sasuke had done something that annoyed Lee. From the sounds of things, Sasuke had managed to steal one of Lee's hard-earned techniques in the blink of an eye. Sure, he knew that the Sharingan had this capability, but he thought it was a dick move on the behalf of Sasuke to steal a comrade's jutsu like that. The fight after Sasuke's was one that Naruto actually paid keen attention to, the fight after which was between Shino Aburame and Zaku Abumi. In the end the fight was over fairly quickly, but the kicker that Naruto knew was that if he was in a fight with Shino, then he would win. Bugs didn't like fire. Nothing really liked fire except water. The fight after Shino and Zaku was the first one that Naruto actually paid attention to, as he had a vested interest in, as it was Misumi Tsurugi versus Choji Akimichi. Now, Naruto had no idea just how strong the other Konoha genin was, but he was confident in his teammate. Choji, as long as he was confident, was the strongest genin in attendance. Sure, he may not be the speediest, but if you got hit by him, then a follow-up punch and you were knocked out. The fight between Choji Akimichi and Misumi Tsurugi is now, go! Gekko Hate shouted out, to which Choji got in his stance as his opponent charged at him. Ino watched with bated breath, which quickly turned into shock as she saw the enemy's body modify itself in a very abnormal way. He quickly found himself holding Choji in a choker hold, but unfortunately for the Chunin hopeful, he was up against someone who could easily get out of his hold. "Nikuden Sasha, human meat bullet tank!" Choji called out as he surprised everyone as he went through the hand seals. The big surprise was the fact that he managed to do this with only one hand. Sure, he could only do that with one jutsu, and it was the one that he had been practicing for pretty much all of his life, but hey, he can use one-handed jutsus. Just what have you been feeding him, Asuma? Color Kakashi impressed, as he definitely didn't think that anyone on Asuma's team would be capable of doing such a thing. If there was anyone on the team that he thought that would be possibly able to do this, it would be Naruto-kun. I think the question should be, what haven't you been feeding your Genin Kakashi? Asuma chuckled as he just got more information to let him know that this bet was all his except for whatever freak of nature guy had spawned. Yeah. Kakashi-sensei. How come you never taught us that? Konohamaru complained loudly, which drew the attention of everyone. Kakashi wisely chose to ignore the comment. He instead focused on how the Akimichi Genin tripled in size before bringing his limbs inside of his body. Masumi attempted to let go, but Choji held on to the boy's arms as he brought his limbs inside his body as he started to spin. Just because Masumi could elongate his limbs and dislocate every joint in his body, it didn't mean that he didn't feel any pain. When you had the weight bearing down on your body with no retreat in sight, it didn't spell anything good. The weight bearing down on him was enough that Masumi attempted to release the hold that Choji had on him, but it was for naught. Choji continued rolling around the room as he wanted to ensure that this victory was his. Choji jumped into the air while still holding on to his opponent, and it was an impressive sight to watch a genin of his size jump so high in the air whilst continuing to keep spinning. He had done this enough times in the past to be able to time his landing so that Masumi was underneath all of his weight when he made connection with the ground. Blood spurted out as Masumi had coughed up a large amount of blood with the multiple breaks in his ribs from the impact. Chuji ended the jutsu and looked down at the damage he had caused. He didn't like doing to anyone, especially a Konoha shinobi, but unfortunately, things like this happened in the ninja world. Doctors raced out onto the arena as the proctor called an end to the preliminary fight as the damage done was by far too much to come back from. The fact that Masumi didn't even attempt to move to a standing position just went to show how devastating the Akimichi clan could be. Nice one, Choji. Naruto complimented his friend as he came up the stairs with a massive grin on his face. Ino nodded as she definitely agreed with what Naruto was saying. Yeah, you did heaps good, Choji-kun. See, your confidence and willingness on missions is getting better. Soon you're going to be better than Naruto over here, Ino said with a teasing grin on her face as she turned towards Naruto. Pfft. Please, sure, Choji is improving, but so am I. I haven't shown you guys all of my tricks yet, and anyway, Ino, he's already ahead of you, so I think that you better step up your game, princess. Whilst Naruto meant to say that in a condescending tone of voice, Ino took the word princess as a compliment. She grinned because she wasn't used to getting compliments from people that she hung around. Choji and Shikamaru never complimented her on her appearance, and the less said about Sasuke, the better. Naruto was different though. He was willing to say whatever was on his mind, so she took this as a good sign. Sasuke who? Sakura, who was watching on from a vantage point, looked on with unbridled jealousy. She didn't know what Ino's game was in her attempt to finally win Sasuke over, but whatever it wasn't going to work. It wasn't that which Sakura was jealous over. It was the fact that she was getting complimented from her teammate. Sakura never got any of that from Konohamaru, and that combined with the way how harshly Sasuke Uchiha always refused her offers of a date left the girl with a whole host of insecurities. Just for that I am going to shout the team lunch after this exam is over and the three of you have made it to the final round, Asuma said with a smirk on his face. To be fair, he wouldn't be paying for this meal out of his own money, he would be paying for it with the winnings of all the bets he had taken. His students didn't know this, but then, what they didn't know wouldn't hurt them. Konohamaru for his part couldn't help but look on with jealousy. He saw the way his uncle was treating his students, and that was completely different to the way that Kakashi treated Sakura, Sasuke, and himself. It wasn't just that though. From the time he spent in the academy, Choji was nowhere near as good as him, and yet after that performance, he had greatly reduced the gap between them. Konohamaru still liked to think that he was stronger than Choji. Who knew how long it would be before Choji would overtake him? The Sarutobi couldn't let that happen, as he had a dream to complete. His dream was to become the 5th Hokage of Konoha, and that wouldn't happen if he wasn't getting stronger. Konohamaru wasn't the only one feeling jealous. Sasuke Uchiha was feeling the exact same emotions as his teammate, even though he hadn't seen Choji fight. He had ambitions and desires, and he felt that the standards he had placed on himself to meet his goals were not being met as far as he was concerned. The next fight is Sakura Haruno and Ino Yamanaka. The difference was stark, as one looked supremely confident, and the other was looking slightly nervous. That nervous was only exacerbated when she noticed that Ino was getting encouragement from her teammates whilst she was getting none. Kakashi wasn't that type of person. Sasuke was out, and Konohamaru didn't particularly like her after all the times she had said that he was trying to be like Sasuke. Hajime. Gekahate called out as he watched the match start. Bunshin no Jutsu, clone jutsu, Sakura called out as she made a clone either side of her. Ino didn't bother moving as she started going through some hand seals. I know those hand seals, Sakura thought to herself as she saw what Ino was doing with her hands. Knowing what the jutsu was, Sakura dodged out of the way as Ino went through the final hand seal. Heh. All that talk and Ino is still just as bad as she was at the academy. I can't believe that I thought that I was nervous about this, Sakura thought to herself with a triumphant grin on her face. That was until Ino quickly changed the hand seals and went and launched a completely different jutsu. It was a genjutsu, and it only took 1.5 seconds for Sakura to realize what had happened, but that was enough time for the Yamanaka girl to be able to go through yet another jutsu with quick hands. This one was the one that Sakura had originally thought that the blonde was going to use. By the time that Sakura had managed to break herself out of the genjutsu, she had already been hit by what made the Yamanaka clan so famous. She did all this without even having to use the backup plan. Thank fuck for that, Ino thought, as she would like to not have to cut her hair off. Proctor, I forfeit, Ino stated as she was inside the body of her former friend. The winner of this fight is Ino Yamanaka, Geku stated, to which Naruto grinned as he watched his teammate succeed. This meant that all of Team 10 would pass as long as he managed to win his fight, which was something that he was more than confident of achieving. Whilst Asuma was proud of what his only female student just accomplished, he was counting the money that he was no doubt going to win. Yes, today was a good day. The next fight will be between Naruto Uzumaki and Kankuro Sabaku. Fighters, take your place, the proctor stated, to which a lot of the senior eyes, including one Orochimaru who was in disguise, were keenly watching to see just how good Naruto was. Kabuto had told him earlier about the fact that the boy had managed to complete an A-ranked mission as a genin and had a 100% mission success rate. Any genin who could put that on a resume was definitely something that had merit and was worth investigating. If it wasn't for young Sasuke Uchiha who had the Sharingan, this child could very well have been his host. Kakashi also had a keen interest on the match as he wanted to know just how strong his sensei's son was. To this day, Kakashi didn't regret for a second not becoming Naruto's sensei, but there was always going to be a part of him who wanted to be there as the boy's mentor. From the skill that Naruto had shown when he took his genin exam, the boy was quite skilled and could become a good jonin if he put the effort into it. Out of all the people watching, though, none were more interested in finding out just how skilled Naruto was. Whereas Kakashi and the other jonin had to hear about Naruto for all of about 2 weeks thanks to Asuma's betting, he had to listen to his son rave about the boy for 4 months. He was finally able to see whether or not Minato's son deserved all the hype he had received. From the way that Asuma had been talking, Naruto was the second coming of Minato. From the academy reports he had read, the Sandaime Hokage just couldn't see that happening. Let the fight begin, the examiner stated, to which Naruto got ready into a defensive taijutsu stance and watched his opponent. He wanted to see what this Suna ninja did. Naruto knew that the threat wasn't Kankuro, it was Gaara. He wanted to find out anything that Gaara could potentially use against him in the further rounds of the tournament. In conjunction with that, Naruto ideally would like to pass through the exams without showing much skills until he knew what Gaara was capable of. As far as he was concerned, out of all of the shinobi here, the only one that he feared were Gaara because he was unknown, and Lee because Naruto had noticed that the boy was wearing weights around his legs during his fight with Sasuke. He had no idea how much Lee was holding back. Fight, the proctor once again called. The fight started by Kankuro dropping whatever it was that was inside those bandages was onto the ground that they were standing on. Naruto merely watched as he stayed perfectly still inside his taijutsu, waiting for the opponent to make the first move. Come on, Naruto! Smash him in the face! Ino chanted as she was getting annoyed at the lack of action, but Naruto ignored the girl. He didn't get serious all the time, but when there was a fight, the blonde-haired genin got deadly serious. 5 minutes passed with either one of Kankuro or Naruto had moved, and it was starting to get on the nerves of Konohamaru. Come on, you pieces of shit! Start fighting! Had the Sandaime not been feeling the same impatience as his grandson, he would have reprimanded the boy for saying that foul language. He was though, so he let it slide. Naruto smirked as he had already deduced that this guy wanted him to attack first. There was obviously something that he had planned, and if Naruto was going to guess, it involved that thing he was holding. Kankuro took the bait. He started running forward to where Naruto was. Naruto happened to notice that he left whatever it was behind him out in the open. The Uzumaki grinned. Now was his chance. Racing off at a speed which was just slightly above what Rock Lee was using with his weights on, Naruto sprinted right for the onrushing Kankuro. Kankuro didn't show any emotion as Naruto ran for him. Right when Naruto got close enough, Kankuro went in for a punch. Naruto dodged the punch with ease, but instead of punching back like everyone had expected or even kicking, he completely dodged Kankuro and went straight for the thing in the middle of the arena. Naruto smirked as he knew that he had made the right choice in choosing to go after the thing wrapped in bandages when the small blue chakra strings attempted to attach to his feet. Fortunately for Naruto, he was moving at a speed that was far too fast for Kankuro to keep up with as he zigzagged towards his goal for the Suna shinobi to be able to latch some strings. When he realized that it was too late to attempt to use chakra strings to trip Naruto, the boy broke out of the disguise he had been hiding in and prepared for a taijutsu fight with Naruto. All of the Jonin were impressed. Naruto had managed to completely take the puppet right out of the fight and isolate the puppeteer. He was definitely in the driving seat now. Not content with the advantage that he had made of himself, Naruto pressed forward and delivered a devastating punch to the face of Kankuro, who staggered back a few steps as he attempted to regain his balance. Naruto's knuckles were pretty damn white as the boy had brought the bones right to the edge of coming out of his skin, but not just so he could inflict more damage. The sound of a jaw cracking was a sound that everyone in the room bar Orochimaru and Kakashi winced at. It definitely sounded like Naruto could pack a lot of force behind those punches when he wanted to. Naruto quickly followed this up with another punch to Kankuro's stomach, which made the Suna shinobi bend down in pain. Once again, Naruto didn't let up as he gave a devastating knee right to the already broken jaw of the enemy, which sent the genin flying up into the air. Just because he was confident that he had already won, that didn't mean that he was going to let up. Naruto wasn't going to stop pressing the advantage that he had gained until the proctor called this match over. Naruto jumped into the air in chase of his opponent. When he got to his opponent, Naruto wrapped both his arms and legs around the body of Kankuro. The unfortunate part for Kankuro was the fact that he was upside down, with Naruto having wrapped his legs were around his chest and his arms around his abdomen. What this meant was that all of both Naruto and Kankuro's weight was on his head and neck. No matter who you were, this spelled trouble for anyone, whether you were Kisame Hashigaki or a no-name random genin. It was the type of attack that you had to get out of unless you wanted serious damage done. Naruto wasn't the only one who knew just how much damage this could do. Baki, the sensei of the Suna team, launched himself into the fight. Naruto saw this out of the corner of his eye and released Kankuro from his hold and landed on the ground safely. Baki, for his part, caught his student to save him from any further damage. "Don't think that I won't forget this, Uzumaki," Baki crisply stated before he personally took the son of the Kazekage to the hospital. Gekahate merely rolled his eyes. If the guy wanted to start something, then he was stupid. The Suna ninja here, even if they were allies, were at a supreme disadvantage, and Konoha would be willing to fight back. From what he had seen, that Naruto kid was more than capable of handling himself should a situation arise. He got the feeling that Naruto was holding a fair bit back. That was the thought shared by many people, none more so than the Sandaime Hokage, as he resigned himself to the fact that he was only going to find out the full extent of Naruto's prowess during the finals. Little did he know that it would be too little too late. With the preliminary round of the Chunin exams out of the way, it was now time for Team 10 to make their way to the barbecue place that they frequented. As much as Naruto wanted to celebrate for the right reasons, there was something that was plaguing his mind. He knew he should be happy at the fact that he passed and was now headed to the Chunin exam finals, but after witnessing what had happened to his friend Rock Lee, Naruto couldn't bring his spirits up. He had just watched his friend get absolutely crippled to the point where he was certain that he would never be a ninja again. The only saving grace for him was that at least he was still alive. Although, to be fair, if it was Naruto in Lee's position, he would have requested death, as being a cripple for the rest of your life was not a life worth living. Seeing what his student was going through, Asuma decided to try and cheer the boy up. "Hey Naruto, Konoha has the best medical program in the world, so if anyone can fix up Lee, then we are going to be the ones to do it. Anyway, try not to think of that, because the more you do, the more you are going to wallow in your thoughts, and that benefits no one. What you need to do now is move on as quickly as possible and make sure that you are strong enough to prevent that from happening again," Asuma wisely stated, to which Naruto nodded. His sensei was right. Nothing positive was going to come from thinking about the injuries that Lee had sustained. "So sensei, how are we going to go about my training for the finals? I mean, Lee was so fast that I couldn't even follow him, and yet he got owned by Gaara." Just saying that Suna Shinobi's name brought distaste to Naruto's lips. He didn't like the boy at all. "I mean, sure, I have more than just taijutsu, but how am I going to break through that sand?" Asuma couldn't help but chuckle. "Don't you think you're getting a bit too far ahead of yourself, Naruto? You would only face Gaara in the grand final. Who is to say that you would even make it that far? You have to beat the Uchiha in the first round, and then you have to face the winner of either my nephew or the Hyuga kid. Don't get too confident, Gaki." Naruto looked affronted. "Hey, it's not cockiness if you can back it up, Asuma-sensei. You saw the Uchiha though, he looked really weak and I could destroy him. The only thing that I have to watch out for is his Sharingan, and casting a genjutsu on me. Outside of that, there is nothing that he can do to even come close to me." Naruto paused for a second. "Plus, I can beat Neji easily. Sure, I will let him hit me once just so I can grab a hold of him. I'd like to see his Byakugan go up against getting drilled in the face with a bone spear." As much as he knew he shouldn't stroke the ego of his student, watching the boy display all this confidence was something that Asuma enjoyed. Haha, what makes you so sure that you would be facing Niji? I mean, there is Konohamaru after all. Naruto started laughing. Come on, sensei, you need to learn how to say better jokes. Oh wait, sorry. Naruto awkwardly chuckled as he realized that the person who he was talking about was indeed his sensei's nephew. He was so shit during his fight that he could only win by taking a fart in someone's face. Now I don't know about you, but to me, that doesn't say skill, that just says that he won by pure dumb luck. Asuma definitely agreed with Naruto there, and that Konohamaru definitely didn't have the most impressive showings in the preliminaries, but the one thing that did impress him was that the boy had the will and desire to give up no matter what the situation was that he was facing. Also, there was something off about Konohamaru. He couldn't quite pinpoint it, but Asuma would guess that it had something to do with the seal. Well, he will definitely be much stronger in a month's time, as he will be getting training from both Jiraiya of the Sannin and the Sandaime Hokage. You better not slack off, or he will become better than you with those two people training him. Asuma internally chuckled when he saw the wide eyes of Naruto. He chuckled as he knew that for someone like Naruto, seeing someone weaker than him catch up meant that he wasn't working hard enough. To someone like Naruto, where all of his success had come from hard work and dedication, this was a massive insult to his character. Naruto vowed that he wouldn't let Konohamaru come even close to matching him. Well then, let's get started on my training right away then, Asuma-sensei. I have to be the best, Naruto stated as if it was a fact. Whilst he admired his student's drive, he knew that it could possibly be his downfall if he didn't amount to the standards that he set for himself. Asuma knew this well, with his role model being the Sandaime Hokage. Well, Naruto, I won't be training you for this month. It's a conflict of interest thing, as you are going up against my nephew. Just when he saw the face of Naruto drop and his head start to hang, Asuma grinned and continued on speaking. But someone else is more than willing to train you. This person is not someone you want to get on the bad side of, and it would be very beneficial for your career if you got on his good side. So don't get on his bad side. So he must be really strong and stay on his good side. That must mean that this guy is pretty high up in the political side of things. If he is high up there, he is either a clan head or an old war veteran who is retired from the front lines. He could also be a member of the ANBU, but I doubt that. Got it. What should I expect from this guy and how should I prepare myself? Naruto questioned. Obviously, whoever this guy happened to be, he was going to be a good shinobi, that much he was certain of. He wanted to make the most of his training with the person so he could incorporate it into his training with Asuma-sensei. He probably wouldn't get to train with this person all that often, so that he would have to make the most of the situation. Well, let's just say that he is very strict and prepare yourself for anything. The cryptic message that Asuma was the last that the Sarutobi man gave on Naruto's trainer. For now though, Naruto, just relax and spend some time with your teammates. Tomorrow you will start your training at 9 a.m. on the dot at this location, Asuma stated, and he handed a piece of paper to Naruto. The blonde-haired boy nodded. It would be good to have a rest day for once. I see, Asuma told me that you had a fixation for chocolate milk, a voice stated, to which Naruto turned around in shock. Whoever this person was damned good, as Naruto couldn't even detect a hint of someone approaching him. The genin rapidly turned his head around and looked at who his supposed sensei was. The man in front of him was not what Naruto expected. For starters, he was holding a walking stick and half of his body was covered in bandages. The other half was covered in robes. Pretty much the only thing that Naruto could actually see of this man was half of his face. You're not what I was expecting, Naruto stated without thinking as he took in the appearance of his apparent sensei. Naruto quickly realized just how this could sound and winced slightly. If the man was affected by this statement, he didn't know it. Tell me then, Naruto, what were you expecting? Danzo curiously questioned. Naruto didn't miss a beat. I admittedly kind of thought that my sensei was going to Shikaku Nara. Now this got Danzo thinking, as he wondered why Naruto would think that Shikaku of all people would be his sensei. Why do you think that Shikaku would be your sensei? Danzo questioned. It wasn't so much the answer that Danzo was looking for. He wanted to find out the thought process behind the decision. Well, Asuma-sensei said I should be very wary of my sensei, so that must mean he is very strong, probably either an elite jonin or bordering on one. Then he also told me that you were the type of person who you wanted to stay on the good side of, so then that must mean that you are in a position of power. Since I'm a shinobi, that probably means the council, since that is my chain of command. When I combined these two traits, I came to the conclusion of a clan head. With Choji, Ino, Niji and Shino all having passed the exams, which meant that the two clan heads to choose from were either the Inuzukas or the Naros. Considering I took the place of Shikamaru after his son died, I thought that he might take an interest in the person who had replaced his son. Danzo, whilst he didn't say it, was very impressed with the reasoning that Naruto had provided. Oh, I thought that Asuma would have mentioned the fact that you were going to be getting trained by the person who trained him. Danzo merely stated, to which Naruto's eyes widened. Oh, so you're Danzo Shimura. There was no picture of you in the books that I was reading, so I didn't know what you looked like. When Naruto said this, Danzo once again pressed for answers. He wanted to find out as much about the boy as he could so he could make his plans best suited for Minato's son. What did those books say about me? Well, they said that you were once vying for the position of the Hokage, you were routinely going on missions with the Shodaime and the Nidaime Hokages. You're on the council and you are one of the Sandaime's advisors. It said that at one time you were challenging Hiruzen Sarutobi for the position as Hokage. I see. Now where did you find all of this information? Why is he asking me all of these questions about himself? Surely he knows all this himself. It was then that it twigged for Naruto. This wasn't an introduction, it was a test. Oh, you know, the library, but I can't remember which book since there were so many. He barely caught it, but there was the tiniest of nods that came from Danzo. Good. For your training, we will be focusing on your bloodline and getting the most out of it. At the moment, Asuma has told me that the only things that you can do with it are use your finger bullets and regular taijutsu. Naruto got a little bit annoyed at the way that his newest sensei stated the facts. Well, it's not exactly the easiest thing to do when you don't have anything but your imagination as your way of learning. It's hard creating jutsus completely from scratch. Danzo didn't deal with complaining or emotions for that fact. He solely looked at situations with the mindset of figuring how to turn a problem into a solution. Then I guess that these would be very beneficial to your training then. The Warhawk stated as he pulled out 2 scrolls from his pocket. Naruto lit up like a house on fire with the way his eyes widened when he saw those 2 scrolls. He didn't think that there were any scrolls on his bloodline. How did you manage to get these, Danzo-sensei? Naruto questioned with much joy. Internally, Danzo admitted to himself that having the suffix of sensei on his name felt good to hear from someone other than Asuma. Let's just say that your sensei was right in saying that I am someone who you want to be on the good side of and leave it at that, okay? Naruto nodded without question. He definitely wasn't going to bite the hand that fed him. Sure thing, Danzo-sensei. Now Naruto-kun, we won't be doing any sparring during our training as we will be focusing on developing new skills. Think of the Chunin exam finals as being the place to field test these jutsus. Alright then, so can I open these scrolls? As much as he knew he should use his manners, Naruto couldn't help but contain his excitement about finally learning not only some jutsus but also more about his past. He had never been able to find out any details on his past outside of the fact that his family, outside of the fact that the Uzumaki clan had been eradicated. He knew that they were very good in the art of sealing, but the problem with that was the fact that it was such an obscure art that very few people knew. It was about as easy to find someone good in the arts of Fuinjutsu as it was to find a competent Wind Ninjutsu practitioner outside of Sunigakure. That was food for later thought though, as Naruto found himself going back to the scroll. Uchikakaka no Jutsu, Endoskeleton Jutsu. A-rank ninjutsu. The user will modify their bones to the point where just there is bone covering the entire internal surface of the body just beneath the layer of skin. This provides the user with a much stronger body and a better defense because for anything that breaches the skin. Not only does this provide the user with added defensive prowess, but it also helps the user offensively as they have much quicker access to a large supply of bone marrow to mold into weapons. This also means that the user can create a bone from any part of his body.